Hello and welcome to, I guess, the Cardboard Box Item podcast. I'm not sure what we're going to call this. It's definitely the Games of the Decade podcast anyway. I'm here, I'm joined by Sean Moher and Stephen Hill. Me and Sean are in a studio somewhere in the depths of London. And Steve is joining us from sunny Japan. Say hi, Steve.
How are you getting on? It's not as sunny as Wexford, but it's all right.
I was actually going to ask, what's the weather like there? But yeah.
Is it still,
it's actually like the volcano here is actually going off, and there's ash falling from the sky like rain. So, and I'm not even joking.
I thought you were joking, but the fucking typhoon season over there is no joke.
Oh yeah, shit! It's been like battering the
East
Coast.
Typhoon Susan goes from like February to January.
Typhoon Susan.
So like, Typhoon Susan. I knew a Typhoon Susan once.
Just for anyone listening, the basic format of this is we wanted to decide what is the Cardboard Box Items top 5 games of the decade. Since we're just on the cusp of the 2020, we thought we'd decide. So the way we're doing it is each person's going to present a game and the other two people are going to present other games that are not quite in the same genre, but the same ballpark, the same feel, the same sort of, brother from another mother sort of thing. And we're all going to, give argue our point on each one, present our debate, and then vote on it. And by the end, we'll make a rough order and hopefully we'll have decided what the top 5 games of the decade are. The plan is that you'll be listening to this after we've released 5 mini videos just explaining why we think each one, sort of going into a bit more depth on each game. That's the plan, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to throw it over to Stephen Hill to present our first choice.
Okay, so you might not be expecting this at all because it's not a game I talk about very often. But my first choice is Uncharted 3. So, surprised, are you? So yeah, I was trying to think, what is a game in that way that we do? And, a lot of games now, they're really cinematic and all that sort of thing. But Uncharted is a series that I think is probably the most cinematic series I've ever played in my entire life. And, I was thinking just Uncharted 3, in my opinion, is Uncharted 2 is great and all, but Uncharted 3 has this. You guys both played it, right?
Yeah.
So I always think, the bit on the airplane just before you drop into the desert.
An amazing set piece. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, and there's that bit as well, when he's on the ship trying to get out of that, when it's sinking.
Oh yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I almost feel
really
like
class.
with Uncharted that it got so good at doing that spectacle that movies almost had to catch up with it rather than aping movies. Future Avengers films and all, they had to just ramp everything up because after you play Uncharted, that's it's pretty hard to be amazed by Arnold Schwarzenegger slowly walking up to a guy and shooting him.
Well, if you did that in real life, I'd be pretty amazed now, being honest. But, because, I was just thinking, I was trying to think of a good, cinematic game or something that was, as big a spectacle as a movie. And I was thinking of, Heavy Rain and that sort of thing for the longest time because, that's kind of it's like a movie thing. But in terms of spectacle, it doesn't really compare. It's got 1 or 2 bits in it that are very cool, but that's more like David Fincher levels of spectacle, whereas this is more, like you said, Avengers or Indiana Jones being the really obvious comparison. So that's my game, and the reason I'm putting it forward is because it brought spectacle to games in a way that I don't think any other series has, and just Uncharted 3 was probably my favourite one.
Cool. Okay, that's sick. It's very cool.
Nice.
Definitely a huge series for the decade.
Yeah.
And for this sort of these last 2 console generations. Okay, cool. We're going to throw it over to Sean and you're going to, do your counterpoint, your argument, you're throwing a game into the battle arena, in other words.
Right. Okay, first of all, I'm really hoping this genre this fits in the genre.
We're loose enough with that.
So this is probably a game. It's definitely it's a game. It's one of the games I've played the most ever, I'd say, but I haven't played it in years. And it's a game that probably, to be honest, doesn't compare to any other of your games, and that is Battlefield 3.
Cool.
Now, specifically the multiplayer aspect of Battlefield 3, that's what I'm talking about. The single player, it was kind of a throwaway story anyway. But the reason I'm picking that is it was just such a step up, I think, for console multiplayer shooters and multiplayer shooters in general. It also used vehicle combat and vehicle gameplay as one of the core elements of the game. Whereas like a lot of other, say, like first-person shooters, like Call of Duty was the most dominant one at the time, and it kind of like competed against it throughout. It still does really. It didn't really include take a Call of Duty as an example. It used vehicles as well, but it was more like an accompaniment rather than where Battlefield would introduce vehicles, and players would need to like use those to actually have the upper hand and like win a match. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You didn't have to.
And there was a skill to using them as well. It wasn't just like get me from A to B, whatever.
Exactly. You didn't have to use them, but you definitely got a huge advantage when you did. I guess kind of comparing to like what Steve was talking about with like cinematic stuff like that. That was one, like Battlefield 3, like obviously there was Battlefield 2 before that, which was like great. That was great for PC game. And Battlefield 3, the engine they used, the Frostbite engine, they completely reworked the engine for Battlefield 3. And like all the major functions of like the animation and especially the destruction in it, that was all completely reworked. It was kind of seen before that in Bad Company 2 as well, but they like really redid it for 3, and they introduced like a lot more like glare and motion blur and things like this, like to get that cinematic spectacle to the multiplayer gameplay, which was amazing. Like the combat in it was just so frantic and fast paced, you felt like you were watching a film, like a war film, while you were playing it as well.
Very immersive.
Very hugely immersive, yeah. And just like matches could get so frantic and so tense that it was like down to the last like 2 people almost to win the match. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I'm putting it forward as one of my favorite games. I also, I played it for like 3 months nonstop as well.
Would you say that's your most played game ever, just in pure hours?
Definitely on console.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What would Counter-Strike?
I'd say Counter-Strike would be right behind it, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, Counter-Strike was on my shortlist, but we won't get into shortlist games now.
Okay.
I'm glad that we do have a multiplayer game on there, because my list is almost entirely. I think it's all single player stuff. So I'm glad that we've got that element in there.
I think I'm the same. So multiplayer. Okay, kids, Fortnite. We're not putting that in, but this is going to be there. Okay. Well, I'm not saying then it could be here, but who knows? Okay. I'm going to present my game. Again, these are going to be 3 fairly diverse games, actually, but with a sort of true line that does sort of connect them, and I think we've hit on that. It's sort of cinematic spectacle and these sort of very well-made, well-designed systems that allow the player to be in the middle of this experience, something that's very immersive and exciting. My pick is Titanfall 2. This was a game made by Respawn in 2016. Respawn were former devs of Call of Duty and other places around the industry. So this has a lot of DNA from other games. It's got that Call of Duty thing. It's got, these are the same people who made Modern Warfare. So some like really interesting level design. But it's also got a lot of Half-Life DNA in it as well. It's made in the Source engine. And the main campaign in it, it's got a fantastic multiplayer mode, apparently. I haven't played it, but people love it. The same developers went on to make Apex Legends, which is a similar game. So the multiplayer is great, but I'm specifically focusing on the campaign. Very influenced by Half-Life 2, and maybe one of the best single-player campaigns I've ever played in a first-person shooter.
Wow.
Just because, like, the audacity to throw so many... Like, it's so brave in that it will throw a mechanic at you for a level and then just abandon it in the next level. And it hasn't outstayed its welcome in one bit. Like, you'll be time traveling between different time periods within the same building in one level. Then in the next, you're in a, dystopian IKEA factory where the level is being built around you as you're going through it. And then in the next level, you're jumping between airships and fighting titans on top while you're flying through the air. Like,
there's a Cooking Mama bit in there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, the Dance Dance Revolution level as well.
Yeah, I love that. Love that shit.
But yeah, it doesn't give you a second to breathe. It never rests on one idea. Like, other games would, for better or worse, string one of these mechanics out for an entire game. But it's just, they're like, okay, we want to present as many new things to the player. And like, the core gameplay is excellent as well. It's got this wall running thing going on. You got the difference between the pilot and the Titan gameplay. Titans are obviously big and slow, but they shoot a lot of rockets and shit like that. And the Titans can move around quickly, but don't have quite the same firepower.
That's cool though. Like, I haven't played it myself, but it's like rare that you would get like a really good single player in a first person shooter nowadays.
Very rare. Yeah.
So it's really cool that you're bringing that to the table. And am I wrong in saying that like there's a good multiplayer section to that game as well?
Literally said that, yeah, but that's okay. It's cool.
Okay, we'll cut that out. Sorry.
I said a lot of words there, so it's okay. No, it's cool.
Actually, Michael, did you play the first one?
I didn't play it. The first one was an Xbox exclusive, and I didn't have an Xbox 360, and it was multiplayer only. I really wanted to though, because I was a fan of those Call of Duties back in the day, like Modern Warfare. Like, those campaigns are still excellent.
Yeah.
And Titanfall 2 sort of stepped that up. So that's why, I was excited to play it when it finally became like a multi-platform game. The story around Titanfall 2 is unfortunate in that it didn't actually sell very well, because it was released by EA in the same window as Battlefield 1, I think. And Call of Duty Advanced Warfare or something like that. So it basically got demolished. And both of those games, like, I've played bits of both of them, and they don't have a campaign like worth talking about. It's just so rote.
But they're so focused on multiplayer, those games.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas, I don't know, I'm just...
Like you, Sean.
Yeah. This was like a last hooray for a really good, tight, and like, short single-player experience. Like, a lot of games nowadays, you're putting 40, 50 hours into them, and that's just like completing it straight away. But like, Titanfall 2, I don't know, I think it was like 15 hours, something like that, just to blast through it. So much fun. So yeah,
cool.
That's my pick. So now, guys, let's throw these three games into the middle of the ring and see what we all think about them. So we had, just to run back through it, Stephen had Uncharted 3, Sean had Battlefield 3, and I had Titanfall 2. Jesus, we're fucking franchise fanboys here. We fucking three sequels.
Clearly. All about shooting people, so that's kind of saying a lot about us. Anyway.
There's going to be a team throughout this podcast of shooting people.
Just so we're clear, you guys have both played Uncharted 3, and Sean, neither you or I have played Titanfall 2. I haven't played Battlefield 3. Have you played it, Michael?
Yeah, I played more of 4.
Yeah, but it's very similar.
They have a similar vibe.
The reason I picked 3 was just because 4 kind of was an extension of what 3 was, and 3 innovated
3 did
a lot.
sort of change. The main thing I remember with 3 is that it didn't have a great single player campaign, but it sort of really raised the bar in terms of, Sean alluded to this, like level, like destruction, graphics in general, like particle effects, and probably still unrivaled sound design. Like, if you're playing a multiplayer map of one of the Battlefield games, it sounds like you're there. The distant gunfire, explosions, people running, shouting, it's incredibly immersive that way. And just purely technically, it's amazing in that way.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that, but now mainly this is in the run-up to Battlefield 1, which I remember hearing that like it was supposed to be absolutely unrivaled, like you're supposed to feel like you're really there. Yeah, that's interesting. One thing that grabbed me when you were talking about that, Sean, actually, was just the thing about the vehicle combat.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that many games like shooters that like have really good one. The best I can think of would be the Halo games. Which side note on that, I hate the Halo games.
I hate them. That's a really drastic.
here's the thing that like Halo games, like the gameplay is fucking amazing, but like the story is not worth a damn. It is the worst story I've ever heard in a game. It's so shit, and like I can't help hating any game that has a bad story. Like, but I mean, yeah, that has like the best vehicle combat I've ever played. Would you say it's better than that?
It's different. It would be my...
I mean, there's no hovercrafts in Battlefield, I'm sure.
Yeah, they are very different games, even multiplayer-wise. And, like, I wouldn't really compare them, to be honest. Like, Battlefield 3 is kind of... It's almost trying to cross the line between arcade and simulation, in a way. Like, it's got that cinematic aspect to it, and, like... the range of weapons and stuff that you're like, oh, you know, you're in an army or whatever, all that kind of stuff. But then the actual gameplay is obviously very arcadey too. So whereas Halo, to be honest, I haven't played enough of Halo really to comment on it. I did play a lot of Halo, I think it was 2 back in the day on PC, like just even co-op, or not co-op, the campaign, the multiplayer, but like LAN, because like where I like grew up, we had like a computer, what would you call it? Like, not a computer. Yeah, exactly, a net cafe. Yeah, it was like right by the school. We used to all go there at lunch and play Halo 2 and Counter-Strike, which is cool. But anyway, that's a tangent. So yeah, never mind that. But anyway, I see your point, Steve. Well said.
Yeah, you win that one.
I didn't know I even had a point. I was just making comments.
So, one of the other games that was picked was Uncharted 3. I do remember really enjoying this at the time, but I never went back to it. It wasn't a game I was like super compelled to go back to for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like that's a completely fair point. Like, it's not really a game with massive replay value, but you know, I think that's okay because there's a lot of movies you'd watch and say, "Holy shit, that was amazing," but you wouldn't watch it again and again.
That's
it's the
true.
Apocalypse Now video games.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I always think of Apocalypse Now when I think of Uncharted. It is probably the only one of these 3 games that we're talking about, like being cinematic and full of spectacle that drives you along, but the other 2, like I can speak, Titanfall's story isn't great. It's the level design and the sort of trust of it and that sort of thing, you know, the excitement to see what the game designers are going to throw at you. That's what compels you with Titanfall. The story isn't great. It's pretty, you know, boring, conventional. I couldn't even name a character from it, and I loved the game. Whereas Uncharted, obviously, it can be a bit B-movie and it can be like, you know, a little bit cheesy sometimes maybe, but it's like it set a completely new precedent for acting and writing and, you know, story presentation in games in general.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, and this is the thing, like, I think we have that in common with both our games, that like the stories aren't phenomenal per se. It's all about like the gameplay and how it presents itself. And like, it's funny because both of our games are very different in how they do it. Like, whereas with Titanfall 2, it seems to be all about bringing in new gameplay mechanics, which is like, you know, really, they all sound really class. Every time you mention it, I want to play it more and more. Yeah. Whereas Uncharted 3, it doesn't really bring in new mechanics per se, but it's got like the rhythm of a film, like which is really interesting. Like, you know, just after that airplane bit where he falls out of the plane, you've got that weird, almost like hallucinogenic desert scene, which is like, it's calm and a little weird, and then it picks up again when you're on the horse chasing after the.
Oh yeah.
What was it?
The convoy of trucks or something.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's something the Uncharted series did really well, is those sort of like huge crescendos of action, and then it would chill for a minute.
Yeah, it's one thing that they do very well. And some games, like, they don't, like, you know, the Tomb Raider games, I've only played the very first of the new ones, but they don't seem to get the calm part of it as well. It just seems to be non-stop. Like, they've got exploration bits, but that's just part of the overworld. And then, like, it just goes into high octane action and it doesn't really know how to do it in the same way.
Yeah, to be fair, they did copy a lot from Uncharted anyway.
They do seem like the poor man's version of those games.
Even though Tomb Raider is an older franchise, but like the reboots.
So, let's all cast our votes and see which one we think makes the Games of the Decade list.
I should just say, on top of that, we're doing this vote kind of anonymously, so we're just using like a form link basically.
And we can't vote for our own game, etc. So drum roll, and I'm going to throw it over to Sean. Who won this round?
Cool. Well, unfortunately, we've turned on the first category. We've had a tie, I guess, all a three-way tie, which is exactly what we talked about before doing this.
Okay.
But it's okay because we have
a workaround.
We have a workaround for this eventuality. So, Michael.
So what we're going to do is, I think the fairest thing is I'm going to assign a number to each one, and we're going to throw them into a random number generator and see which one wins. Because I think these 3 games especially are different enough, and all of them are great in their own ways, that any of them I do believe should make the list.
For different reasons maybe, but yeah.
Okay, so Uncharted's going to be 1, Battlefield's going to be 2, Titanfall's going to be 3.
The same order we said them, that makes sense, yeah.
And the winner is Battlefield 3.
Yeah, boy. Oh man, that's class actually. I feel like I had a part to play in that.
This isn't a competition, but it's a little bit of a competition.
It is 100% a competition.
But I mean, yeah, so like we'll just say, unfortunately, you know, we're bringing 15 games to the table here, but there can only be 5 winners, really.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of great games that don't make the list.
A lot of great games, yeah. And these 5, I guess the 15 games really in total, they're our personal favourites. So, you know, we're not saying that like, oh, why didn't, you know, that game get mentioned or whatever. It's just because, you know, personally we didn't find them.
There's plenty of excellent games made this decade.
Sorry.
There wasn't just 5 good games made this decade.
Yeah. So anyway, all I'm saying is, you know, hold on to your words before you go down in the comments and start fucking blasting us, right?
We're Soul
Especially
Reaver
the Minecraft community.
Oh yeah, Minecraft.
That was an alright game.
Soul Reaver 2. I don't think I've ever played any
I didn't
Soul
play
Reavers actually.
No, it was kind of shit actually.
Okay, so the next sort of genre vibe thing we're going to move on to, and I'm going to present first. So the game I'm going to throw into the mix is Hotline Miami. Yeah, you and Sean are playing the sequel, but specifically I'm talking about the first game, released in 2012 by Denaton Games. This was a huge game for me. Around this time, I was sort of getting into indie games anyway. Like I'd played Limbo and Braid and stuff before this, and those are great games. But this came out a few years after those, and it just sort of blew my mind in what an indie game could be. It's sort of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
I guess it was so innovative. You know?
Yeah, it's innovative, but it also throws back to stuff from the 80s. But it justified there being an indie scene.
Yeah,
because this is the sort of game that like you're never going to get from a AAA publisher. It's really messy and grungy and fucked up in a lot of ways. You know, it's very violent, but also challenges you about that violence and does really make you consider it, which seemed to be a trend in games this decade as well for a little bit with Spec Ops: The Line and some other games that sort of forced you to look at. But just on Hotline Miami, it's not just good because of its themes or anything like that. It's also one of the most satisfying gameplay loops of the decade. For anyone who doesn't know, we'll probably put some footage up on screen, but it's a top-down view, sort of reminiscent of older Grand Theft Autos or Smash TV. You go into a room, you shoot guys, and there's a really good pulsing synthwave soundtrack. That's another thing about this. It's sort of responsible for a boost in popularity, at least, for the synthwave genre. I know myself and Sean got massively into it directly because of this game.
Yeah.
And like they're all really unknown guys when I think they went to Bandcamp or something just to look for artists. And
yeah. I mean, yeah, there's so much I want to say on that game, but I have to present my own game as well. But yeah, sorry, you continue. I'll just let you.
Like guys like Moon and Perturbator, like the first time I ever heard him was in this game, and the way it's implemented, like we made previous videos on how music is implemented in video games, and this is one of the examples. The fact that you have these really quick, instant respawns when you die in Hotline, and you need them because it's such a difficult game. But the music track just keeps going, and it really propels the momentum forward. You don't feel like, oh, I keep dying You feel like, okay, I'm coming up against a brick wall, but I want to get through it. The music is reaching its chorus, like it's really ramping up. And like it was the perfect marriage. It just works.
It suits the aesthetic so well.
And the aesthetic as well. It's got that, that 80s or early 90s pixelated look. And they really go into that. Like it's very, very influenced, and sometimes it wears this influence a bit too heavily. Very influenced by the film Drive by Nicholas Winding Refn. Really cool film, and really cool that they took it in this other direction as well.
Yeah.
That sort of, I don't know, made an amazing indie game.
Like personally for me, I mean, I'm sure there was other pixel games before it that were like very innovative as well, but it kind of like showed me like, oh wow, like this is what you can do with pixel art in a video game, do you know? I mean, I'm not sure if Fez was before that.
It was around it might have been 2011. I'm not sure. We can fact check that.
Also a great game. But yeah, Hotline Miami is just, it stands out on its own.
It's interesting that there was such an explosion of pixel art video games after that as well. Like it's I know it definitely existed as a very indie thing, but Fez was 2012 as well, so it was around the same time. It definitely existed in indie games, but after that you saw so many other games with that aesthetic. What's that one? Hyperlight Drifters may be one of the best examples of it. But like so many games have beautiful pixel art nowadays.
Like there was a lot of people trying to copy the success of Hotline Miami with a lot of clones as well. But I guess it showed a lot of developers like, oh, like we can just, because it was made in Game Maker Studio, I believe.
Which is a free software as far, well, it's a publicly available software.
I think it is. I think there is a free version of it maybe. But so like, I mean, it just showed developers, oh, we can just pick up that and go, like, you know, so... Yeah.
It's really, that ties into the whole punk sort of feeling of it. It's just two guys from Sweden, I think.
I think
just threw together a game and it became like a worldwide success.
Crazy.
Okay, so that's my pick for, I don't know what genre this is going to be. We're going to, I guess when I see the guys' games, we'll decide what we're going to call it. I'm going to throw it over to Sean for his pick.
Cool. So my pick is a game from 2016. It's also actually the first and only game from this studio.
Okay.
And that game is Thumper.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Wild card. But, so Thumper, for those that don't know, is like a rhythm action game, or actually its developers coin it a rhythm violence game. And it's essentially, it's kind of like an evolution of games like Audio Surf, where you're kind of on a rail, like your player model or whatever is on rails, and you have to beat match kind of to the soundtrack. Although one thing I found very interesting about it is you don't so much, it's not like you're listening to a drum pattern in the background and you have to like match the beat of the drums or whatever.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is built for the game. Like the whole game was like made around that. And so you almost make the song, you almost compose the song as you go in a way. It actually uses like a kind of a call and response thing.
Yes.
Where so the track kind of gets built in front of you in a little bit in the distance, and you will hear so just to break it down, you're this little space beetle, right? Which is so weird in itself. You're this like silver beetle that's like riding along a track. Think of like Hot Wheels cars on the track. It's almost that kind of a track.
It looks way more like a butt plug, man. It looks really like a butt plug.
The beetle. Well, okay, yeah. It does look weird.
Well, it does have wings, I guess.
Yeah. But so your little beetle is going down this Hot Wheels track, and there's a lot of like curves and things like that. All you have, your only controls are left to turn your beetle left and right when you're going around corners, and you can also like jump up and down kind of to hit these like beat markers that'll show up, and you can also, there's also kind of these I guess like these lines or rods that go across the track that you need to jump up to hit and things like that. There's a lot of variation. You'll probably see it on screen right now. But basically the track kind of gets built a little bit ahead of you as you're moving along. And so the beat markers will get placed down and you'll hear the cue of them being placed down and the rhythm that they're placed down.
Yeah.
And because the game is so fast paced, you really need to pay attention to the rhythm that they're being placed down, because they'll come up just lightning quick. Like you might have 3 or 4 turns in less than a second, and you have to be like right on it to turn the wheel. Obviously, if you miss a beat marker, it's fine. You just don't get the points for it. But if you crash into a wall, like a corner,
you lose your armor.
You lose your armor first, and then one more hit, you're gone, and you have to start from the start of the level. It's really fast paced. There's no loading screens, so you just go from one level to the next, on and on. And there's not really much of a story to it. There's this kind of like skull monster that is at the end of the track that's the ultimate goal, is to defeat him. And basically once you get a perfect score, like at the end of each I think it's at the end of each level, or I can't remember right now, but either the end of each level or a few levels, there's like a mini boss.
Yeah.
And to defeat the mini boss, you have to get a perfect score, and you'll send like a pulse down the track, and that will like damage them. And you do that so many times, you complete the mini boss level.
So they give you something loose to sort of a goal, in other words, to keep going. Because I think that's important, especially in like a rhythm violence game or whatever they call it. You don't want just to be doing it in a vacuum. You need something to sort of work towards, in a way. Yeah, and like the thing, like it's such another standout game really for me, because there are games like it, but there's nothing quite like it. Yes.
And the visual and like sonic, the visuals and the audio, once they all come together, it's just like you have to experience it to see what I mean. It's a gorgeous looking game, beautifully crafted. The sound design's amazing. It's just...
but you don't quite get it until you play it.
And it's definitely going to make you rage quit, because it's
very difficult.
It's so hard. It's actually got kind of that Hotline Miami thing as well, though, where not like so much that the song like loops or whatever. Well, that kind of does happen, but like once you die, you like instantly restart kind of. So you want to keep trying. And also, something that is similar to Hotline Miami is to complete a level, and it's probably the same for most people, you basically have to memorize the patterns. Yeah. So like that's kind of like Hotline Miami as well, where...
Well, saying that, in Hotline Miami, you can just sometimes have blind luck and go in and spray a shotgun all over the place.
That's true, you can be really lucky, but I suppose on some of the harder levels, you need to, okay, there's definitely a guy in that corner, I need to look out for him, do you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, in Thumper, you'll be like, okay, I'm coming up to that really hard section now, and you'll just like, it's almost muscle memory, you know, you'll just remember the turns, and but it's definitely one of my favourite games of all time, not just the decade, so that's why I'm putting it forward.
Awesome.
Cool.
Sick. This is going to be a tough category. Okay, we'll throw it over to Steve, and do you want to throw your proverbial hat in the ring?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty obvious now that you guys are really into audio-visual stuff, because like my game relates in no way to the music. So,
well, it could be aesthetic or whatever. Like, yeah.
No, it's not that either.
Throw them a bone.
This is going to throw the entire theme out of whack. But I'll tell you, so I was kind of torn between two games for this one, both very thematically similar. I'm going to tell you the game I didn't choose and see if you can guess what the game I have chosen is.
Cool. Okay.
So the game that I didn't choose was Cuphead.
Oh, what a game.
Wow.
I actually haven't played it.
That sort of would tie into it a little bit, because it's got the difficulty that the other two games have, definitely.
Right.
And like an really
interesting retro aesthetic as well.
Yeah.
So
I hear the music's good. I haven't played it.
Yeah, the music's good as well.
Old jazz sort of thing. Yeah, Cuphead's cool. I can't... What would okay, is it a platformer then? A retro...
Oh, it is a platformer.
Platformer. It's not Fez, is it?
On the right.
Can you tell us what year it's from?
I can, as soon as I get my little book. It's 2014.
Oh man, that's years ago. Who remembers that? That was Gangnam Style.
I'll tell you what, I'll save you the hassle. It is Shovel Knight.
Oh wow. Cool.
Yeah. So obviously now the music, even though it's really good in Shovel Knight, it doesn't tie in quite the same way that like it ties into Thumper, and to a somewhat lesser extent Hotline Miami, even though it's still very important in both of those. But the reason I chose this one was because, you know, you've seen so many games, like there's kind of a very retro revival happening like right now.
Yeah.
Like how many like PlayStation 1 ports or like remakes have we seen in the last like year or two? You know, we got the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, you've got like the Medieval remastered, you've got like Spyro
Resident
trilogy.
Evil 2 as well, yeah.
Yeah. and like the likes of Ukulele coming out, which is like a homage to Banjo-Kazooie. And yeah, Shovel Knight was kind of it was a less cynical version of all that. Because, all those are like kind of, oh, this will make money, we'll make a remake of this. Whereas Shovel Knight kind of feels like, do you remember when you used to sit in front of your big CRTV, like on the carpet, like and play fucking Castlevania or Mega Man or whatever? And like, it was kind of made in that kind of same vein. I remember you, Michael, actually told me about this long before I played it, and you were telling me you got to check this out, and I eventually did. And yeah, it's great because it has that retro vibe to it. But unlike a lot of really retro games like Castlevania, what I'm playing now, it's like not hard as nails. It's accessible, which is really cool. Like it's anyone can play this game. Like I'm pretty sure like my niece and nephew who are like under 10 years old, they could pick this up and play it no problem. And like, it's got a save feature, so like you're not like screaming, throwing controllers at the window. Or
I don't think it's too
siblings.
easy though either is the other thing. I think it gives you enough of a challenge throughout that you're not just sleepwalking through the game. But it's definitely it's way more accessible than those other like Mega Man and Castlevania. Those are so hard to play nowadays,
Sorry, yeah, I forgot the fact that I'm amazing at games. I
consideration.
Thank you for pointing that out, Mike. Well, no, you are right though. Like it isn't that easy. Like it's got the same level of difficulty, but I'm just thinking. I remember I played through all the Mega Man games, like save stating every 5 seconds in order to actually complete it because I could never do it normally, So it was nice to have like this kind of game to come in and just be like, okay, yeah, you can throw this in and you can actually play it like a regular game and not feel stressed out like that. You're going to have to start from the very beginning after putting in like 3 hours work.
Oh God!
So it's like it's nostalgia bait, but at the same time, I feel like it's not as cynical as that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. It seems like it was made with love for the genre without being just a direct copy of anything. Like it took a lot of influences from different places, really. Like you were saying, there is a lot of nostalgia bait happening at the moment, but there's also a lot of games being made like Hotline Miami and to a certain extent like Thumper, which are drawing on, not just game influences from the past, but like filmic and music influences and like making something new out of them as well. That's happening in all media. That's like movies, music, everything seems to be, drawing something from the 80s, from the 90s, etc.
Can I just say, Steve, you said it's 2014 it came out, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't played it yet. It's on my Switch library and I can't wait to play it. But, so it's 2019 now, they're still bringing out add-ons for that game as well. Like the Shovel Knight Complete. Yeah. If you buy the Shovel Knight, I think if you just buy Shovel Knight now anyway, like just the standard game, you get all the add-ons included.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are free, yeah.
I think the newest one is coming out in December, actually.
Yeah, 10th of December is coming out.
And that's the last one, they say, but yeah.
Yeah, well, there's 2 of them coming out at the same time. One of them is an extra campaign, and the other one is like a weird multiplayer mode, which is like a deathmatch sort of thing. That was actually, this is what part of why I'm thinking it's not that cynical, because, like you, I literally just bought the game, and then I found out, like, it just automatically downloaded the DLC, and I was like, oh, I get this for free. Wow, that's nice really surprise. Cool. Yeah.
And that's a rarity nowadays.
Exactly, yeah. But just to add one more small thing before I finish up, another thing, and it is a small thing, but that I like about this is that Shovel Knight actually has like a decent little story in it that like, and it trims the fat. Like, you get like a big bulky AAA game, and it's like there's loads of cutscenes, lots of exposition, there's lots of like world building and all that sort of thing. Whereas Shovel Knight is very much like it's just a game. You're going in there and you have gameplay it's 99% gameplay, but the story is actually pretty good. In that. Do you know the girl that you have to rescue in it? The Shield Knight.
Shield Knight, yeah.
Yeah, I remember like one thing I was really impressed by I remember when I saw it, I was like, oh, so you're saving a princess. And it's like, oh no, it's a knight. And this is something of a spoiler, but like, it came out 2014, so you should have played it by now.
I literally said I haven't played it yet, Steve.
Oh yeah. So
no, go on,
you
say
just
it.
Cover your ears.
Say it.
It's not too big a deal, but like the last boss in the game, you fight with Shield Knight. And like it's awesome because like she actually like it's not like a case of you're rescuing a princess, but like you're equals in it, and I'm like, oh, that's just a nice little touch. It's only a small thing, but it's something I liked in it.
She does help to save herself in a way, which is like a nice subversion of that like usual trope. Like that's maybe the genius of Shovel Knight is that it takes all these influences from these old games but updates them in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
So it like you said, trims the fat off a lot of like smooths the rough edges for better mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I'm putting that up there. So I'll finish with that.
Cool. So, Jesus, that's our 3 games. This is going to be a difficult one for me personally. I don't know about you, but I'm still not sure what I'm going to pick.
The poll is live, just to let you know.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's get into it a little bit. Steve, what are you going to say there?
I just wanted to check, see what games everyone's played. I know, Sean, you said you haven't played Shovel Knight. I've played all 3 of these games, and they're all amazing.
I've played all 3 of them. Yeah, they're and they do have like there is. I'm not sure what genre we'd put this under. There is like a focus on music in 2 of them, and there's retro aesthetics, and they're
all indies.
There's punishing difficulty to a certain degree in all of them. Maybe they're all indies, and they all innovate in a way while also looking back.
Yeah.
And that it does reflect this decade in a very interesting way.
Yeah. Who makes Shovel Knight actually?
Yacht Games? Yacht Club Games?
Yacht Club Games, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Had they made like other games beforehand, or was this their first one?
I think this is their first one, actually. I didn't check. I think, this was all crowdfunded. So
that's another trifecta then for all 3 games. They were the first games from the companies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Do you know what I think ties a lot of them together is they're very easy to pick up and play, all 3.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, you jump into all of them, and they reward, quick restarts and getting back in. It doesn't want to punish death too much, even though they're difficult.
Yeah.
But it doesn't send, like you're saying, Steve, it doesn't send you back like a Ghosts and Goblins would have to the very fucking beginning of a level or a game, or the game even sometimes. I know with me, I love both of these games. I've played more of Shovel Knight probably because that again was one that I got back in the day, and it really, even though I didn't play quite as many of those old 2D platformers as other people, I did like get a lot of the references and the charm of that game, and how it is a love letter to these older, the sort of game that isn't really made anymore. Like platformers in general aren't made anymore. Like I know Ukulele and they're trying to push for a revival, but it's not really catching fire yet.
Yeah, it's not really like it'll never be like a huge money making like genre to do, like to focus on like it was back in the NES era, because like they've got first person shooters and they know people love those, so like they're going to focus on them. But like at least it shows a human side of the video game industry. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
Definitely.
And Tumper was interesting when you were talking, Sean, about the way your mind processes the level, and the way I found that I had to get into a zone when I was playing it, mostly by being drunk. But
man, I don't know how you play that drunk. Like I found I needed complete tunnel vision. Like
I've only played Tumper drunk, by the way.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
because I've only played it at Steve's house.
But you need like lightning fast reactions.
That's
why he's only played the first 2 levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, have you ever tried driving when you're drunk?
I'm
I think
you'd be driver when I'm drunk. I think I'd be class at. Thanks, Sean. Vote of confidence, at least. I found though that I had to tap out the BPM, the beat on my foot as I was playing as well. You cannot just go with visual cues. They are helpful, but like you were saying, it has to be muscle memory. It has to be.
Yeah.
It is playing a sequencer, playing a drum beat to
but it's not like playing Guitar Hero where it's a 4/4 thing or Audio Surf or whatever. Like they introduce polyrhythms into it and stuff, and it's like if you're not listening out for those audio cues, you're not going to predict what it is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What's a polyrhythm?
Sean?
It's okay. So
it's for our audience.
I could be wrong, but my understanding of it is it's like a rhythm that's inside another rhythm. So you might have a 6/8 time signature, which is the rhythm, but that's kind of encompassed in a 4/4 rhythm. So like the 4/4 rhythm could be the bass line, so 1 2 3 4, but then you have a 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4, which like eventually loops around to meet the 4/4. Do you know what I mean?
It complements it, but at times can sound a little dissonant as well. Well,
And
Google's
what's
official.
a bass line?
What's a music?
Here comes Google to destroy me. Is it actually, Sean?
The Google Corporation decided Sean was wrong and had to silence him. They define a polyrhythm as a rhythm which makes use of 2 or more different rhythms simultaneously. So you are correct.
Oh, cool. I was right. There you go.
Yeah,
4 years of college worked.
Actually, Sean, can I ask you,
yes.
have you played Rez before?
No, but actually, that I was going to say,
What?
I haven't played Rez yet, and I've heard that a lot, and it was one of the games that I was going to cite as an influence for it, even though I haven't played it, but that's why I didn't mention it. But I have heard that mentioned before in the same breath as Thumper, so I've heard that's a really good game though.
I don't think Rez is quite as intense as...
No.
Well, visually it is. Like, it's fucking mind trip. It's crazy. But it's not quite as white knuckle as Thumper.
Yeah.
I think it's a more laid back version, which is good. It's different.
And okay, so Hotline, what do you think? Both of you have played it. Obviously, both of you are playing the sequel at the moment.
Actually, have you played the first one, Steve?
Yeah, I finished the first one and I loved it. Like, it's interesting how the second one, like, I couldn't really say if it's better or worse. It's just really just an extension more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, they do different things, but I don't, all the things they do differently, I'm not going to say, oh, that's much better, or neither is it much worse. It's just kind of like a continuation, which is fine.
Yeah, like they had such a good formula the first time around. They were just like, oh, well, how can we like just add to that and like change a little few things, do you know?
Yeah. It's like more Hotline, really.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It almost reminds me of Portal and Portal 2, as in Portal 2 did a lot of things more, as in it was bigger and had more things and a more involved story, but I'd still call Portal the better game because it's such a defined experience, such a like tight, really quick but enjoyable campaign. And that's sort of why I went with Hotline 1. Even though I love 2, it does a lot of things simpler.
Yeah.
It doesn't add too many ingredients to the pot.
What I think Hotline does better than probably either mine or Sean's game is like the pick up and play quality of Hotline Miami is off the charts.
Yeah.
Like, it is phenomenal. Like, I don't know about you, Sean, but when I was playing Wrong Number, Hotline Miami 2 there a little while ago, I did like that thing that you do usually, it's okay, I'm getting up at 9 tomorrow, I'll play for half an hour, and then suddenly it's 2 a.m. and I'm like, I still haven't gone to bed. So that like instant like replay of a level when you die, that's so addicting. It's insane because because you just want to completely hone like the level and like all the different kills and stuff. Yeah, it's just it's great.
And like one final point on Hotline is I love the brutal way you die. So like I was watching Sean play during the week and he was sort of like, okay, being very methodical, and it's like, okay, there's a guy with a bar there, and he had sort of worked out the rhythm of a level, but then he was like, okay, I'm going to get it this time, and he got through to the first guy, killed him, went through another corridor, and some random guy who never appeared before this walks out of a room and just blasts him with a shotgun, and like, it's over, you're dead.
One like con, if I could say, about Hotline is just and I've heard this kind of being said a lot in some reviews of it, is just that it can turn into a kind of game where you're baiting the enemies towards you, like to come out through a doorway and then just kill them all that way and stuff. I mean, like, the game is meant for you to rush in and kill everyone as quick as you can in a way. But I guess a lot of people end up doing it the safer way and baiting people towards them, which some people in some reviews have said is a bit boring. But like, it's really up to you how you want to play it, though. So I wouldn't, like, personally, I wouldn't count that as like, I wouldn't fault the game for that. That's just a method of playing it, really. But I just thought I'd mention that. Really.
It's all, and that's a fair point, because I know I fucking cheesed some bits of it doing that, definitely, but it's almost like you can't criticize a puzzle game if someone goes online and looks for a hint or something like that. If there's a way, like, it is a bit of a flaw of that mechanic, the design of certain levels or whatever, but like, I do know you're not running into the first time through a hotline level and just like blasting through everyone and completing it.
Yeah, no
it does
way.
throw some dirty tricks at you as well, and that's like the best moments in the game.
The glass,
the dogs as well.
Oh,
the dogs.
Stop.
All right, guys. 3 great games. Let's cast our votes and see where we end up.
Cool.
Okay, Sean. So give us the result.
Cool. Well, stupidly, I was thinking like, oh, it's a unanimous like vote, but then I was like, well, somebody can't vote for their own game. So anyway, the winner's Hotline Miami.
Okay, sick, sick.
Had a feeling it would be all right.
Yeah.
Saying that, I found that quite difficult from my perspective. Obviously, I brought Hotline, but like, I voted for Shovel Knight, if I'm being honest, but Thumper is a game I love. It's just because I've played more of Shovel Knight that I really like threw that into the mix.
Yeah,
but 3 great games.
I think all 3 of those games,
brilliant,
they're pretty on par. Really good.
All iconic
well done,
for their
lads.
own.
Well,
Give yourselves a hand.
We did it, boys.
They're all iconic for their own reasons.
That's true,
yeah.
Okay, 2 great games already added to our list. Let's go for a third one. I'm going to throw it over to Sean Moore, and he's going to present another contender.
Cool. So this game is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite franchises as well. It's from a studio. It was made in 2011 from a studio that unfortunately isn't around anymore. But anyway, my game is Dead Space 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the reason I picked the second one rather than the first one, well, first of all, the first one wasn't made in this decade, but I do believe the second one is the better game, the best game in the series, to be honest, because the third one, really fell off the ladder. But mostly down to EA, but we won't go on about that too much. So Dead Space is basically a survival horror set in space. The director of the series basically said he wanted to make Resident Evil in space, and he definitely achieved that, I think.
You can see that influence in it totally.
100%, yeah. So it's a third-person, over-the-shoulder view. It's very... I'd say it is very story-driven, but I'd say the second game more so than the first. In the first game, you were a silent protagonist, so you didn't talk at all. You didn't even see your face in the first game, actually. Because you had an armor kind of spacesuit on, you always had a helmet covering your face. The second game, they opened the second game by giving your character a voice in a cutscene, and this actually threw a lot of the fans off because they were like, "Oh, this is so weird!" Like, first of all, I can see his face and he's talking, but to be honest, it did so much for the story and to progress the story of the whole series, and you kind of needed that interaction. Like, so during the game, Isaac, the main character, he meets like lots of other characters, and there's some kind of touching commentary between them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To get into the gameplay, basically, it kind of does follow, I suppose, the Resident Evil style a lot. Your main enemy is kind of an evolution of what a zombie would be. They're called necromorphs, which are like, there's this kind of... let's say a virus. There's this kind of virus set loose on a space station in space, and
space station in space.
Yeah, man. As opposed to those ones
What's
in
it doing there?
in the hangar. So the story, it's like not hugely deep, but there's basically this religion called Unitology, which was actually meant to be a jab at Scientology. Although like it's not really comparable, except like it's kind of like a cult. So that's the only comparison.
Please
really.
don't come after us, Scientology.
Yeah, but and so the main kind of thing that Unitologists worship are these things called markers, which are like giant statues, and the statues basically send out these symbols that make the majority of people go insane, and also kind of releases this virus called the necromorphs. And what that does is it will kill somebody and then turn them into this like grotesque monster, which you, Isaac, then have to fight against. One interesting thing it did, though, was the combat in it. It wasn't like, okay, aim for the head and kill him. Do you know? In fact, if you were just shooting the bodies, like like bog standard, it wouldn't really do much to them at all. The main thing you needed to do was cut off their limbs, and it was a very grotesque game, I'll say, first of all. It was actually, when I was doing research for this, I noticed that it was one of like the only games, like the enemies were very varied, and they had enemies that were actually like necromorph babies and necromorph children. Whoa. Which was really weird. Like, it was like one of the only games where you could shoot children. I
guess, yeah, they justify it by saying, "Oh, it's zombie kids."
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing.
Or alien kids, or whatever.
That's the thing. It would be a stretch to go killing zombie kids and babies, but because they're still very human,
and they used to be human technically.
Yeah. So in this, it's like, it's almost like they're demon kind of things, you know. So you kind of get away with it that way. But so Isaac was like an engineer, so he wasn't a soldier or anything like that. So he kind of had to adapt to what he knew. So he would use a lot of like plasma cutting tools they had and stuff, and he'd use that to cut off limbs and stuff. The game, like the story is... one thing actually I'll say about the second game in particular is it did kind of borrow a lot from Uncharted, in that it became a lot more cinematic than the first game. Especially one thing the game does is it doesn't have so many like cutscenes around. The whole game flows very well.
Yeah.
It did have a few cutscenes, but that was more for like cinematic set pieces. It wasn't for like, oh, here's like, you know, a load of dialogue between characters or whatever. You know, most of the dialogue happens through audio logs and video logs that you pick up along the way. It also didn't have a UI at all. Well, sorry, like a UI in the traditional sense. The UI was implemented into the game world. So Isaac's suit would show his health on his back. And also he had a stasis ability that the suit gave him, so he could freeze enemies and slow down doors, basically, and things like that. That was also shown on his suit. Your weapon or your ammo counter was shown on the back of your gun as well. So that really immerses you into the game, and because there's no cutscenes, so to speak, either, you like rarely get pulled out of the game as well. You're really immersed into it. One thing I'd mention specifically that was a big standout for me in this kind of genre of game was the sound design. The way, like, the game makes you feel very alone at times. Like, everyone's dead and you're just alone on this space station. And like the distant like creaking and moaning of the station kind of in this like empty world, like just really sets the tone and really sets in the kind of psychological horror of the game. And that's one thing that the second game did better, or did more of, I suppose, than the first. And the first game was really about jump scares. There was a lot of jump scares. Yeah. That's the main complaint about Dead Space, I'd say, is just it's just cheap jump scares. And it does become predictable after a while. Now, the second game has a lot of that too, but it also... So Isaac is basically fucked after the first game, after the horror that he experienced in that, and he's like losing his mind. The game starts out with you in an insane asylum, actually, on board this space station. And you keep having visions of your dead girlfriend and stuff, and the marker calling to you and all this stuff. But this will happen like randomly throughout the game, and like just... like not in a jump scare way, in a way you wouldn't expect, and it really like immerses you and freaks out you as the player almost. But the sound design as well, just to go back to that, of the necromorphs, like you can hear them like screaming or whatever distantly in the station, or when they're right around the corner you can hear like little grunts and stuff. And that was actually a big I suppose key for you as the player to note, like, okay, how far away are they? How many are coming up? That kind of thing. You know what I mean?
And also, it lends itself to the atmosphere of that. So it's always scarier to imagine what something is. Like, it's something that's used in horror films. So
of course. One last thing I'll say. I don't want to go. Actually, two last points. So there was zero gravity sections in the first one, where you had like zero gravity boots that that locked onto walls, and you could jump between platforms and stuff. The second game though allowed you to have full 360 degree movement. Your suit had like little propulsion jets on it that you could use to move around, and there were some sections where you had to go out and like fix a comms array or something like that in the depths of space, which were just mind blowing, like beautifully crafted, like graphically and everything. It was amazing. The last thing I'll say is, and this is something that probably wasn't like found in some other games beforehand, but when I heard about it, I was just like, what the hell? The difficulty, it was a pretty hard game. Like, you had to be pretty smart about how you took on the necromorphs, because like you could easily get swamped, and it wasn't like the movement of your main character was definitely better than the first game, but it was still a little bit cumbersome, I suppose, you know. But the hardest difficulty in the game, which I just have it down here as nightmare difficulty, it might have been called something else, but that was the second hardest difficulty level, like in terms of gameplay, but it only let you save the game 3 times throughout the whole campaign. So you had to be so strategic about, okay, right, I'm coming up to this boss, or I'll just beat that boss, I'm going to save it now. Do you know? And like, if you messed up, all the way back to the start of the game, or your last save, which could have been 6 hours ago. Do you know? So, and as well, that was like a trophy on PlayStation. I was just like, damn, I'm never going to platinum this. Do you know? Yeah, so anyway, it was a standout game for me. I think one of the best in the survival horror genre, so that's why I'm putting it forward.
Okay, that was sick. Thank you very much, Sean. We're going to throw it over to Stephen Hill and to see what he throws into the ring.
Just very quickly, delighted that you threw that in there, Sean, because Dead Space is a class series.
So good, man.
I probably disagree with you in which one is better. I personally prefer the first one, but we'll talk about that later anyway.
Okay, cool.
So the game that I am putting forward came at the very start of this decade, all the way back in 2010. Ooh. But seems quite appropriate considering how much it has influenced. The game I am putting forward is Demon Souls.
Wow. I actually didn't realize Demon Souls squeaked into the decade. That's sick.
I was worried at first, but it just got in there. So it's,
January 1st, 2010.
So Demon Souls, the experience I had when I played Demon Souls was not unlike when someone becomes a born-again Christian. It was like, holy shit, I remember why I play video games now. It was honestly that level of euphoria. I remember like thinking, I read it in, do you know those books, the 1001 movies you have to watch or songs you have to listen to or whatever? I had the 1001 games you must play, because, you know, we all have time to play 1001 games in our
Obviously.
lifetime. Totally. But Demon Souls popped up there and I was like, that sounds good. Really hard though. I don't know if I'd like that, but I'll give it a go. And I was kind of had it in my mind, I'll play it for like 2 hours, and if I'm not into it, I'll like sell it on or whatever. And Jesus Christ, I just remember it being such a phenomenal game. There's no game or game series, because I'm not going to lie, I am taking almost the entire Souls and like Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, all From Software's latest stuff into account here. But there is no series I can think of that gives you a better feeling of euphoria at all. Like the feeling you get when you finally kill a boss that you've been stuck on for like weeks and weeks even. It's just phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And like you guys, I mean, Michael, I know you've played a couple.
Yeah.
And Sean, have you played any of them? The Souls games?
I've played none of them, actually. I think a guy I used to live with was really into Demon Souls and Dark Souls, actually, and I like watched him play a lot of it, and it just looked just impossible.
I don't think you're as into like the medieval sort of aesthetic.
Not hugely,
no. Off,
yeah, but I mean, I can definitely appreciate the games for how difficult they are and stuff. And I get what you're talking about with the euphoria, like when you finally get past a part or, you know, kill a boss or something.
So yeah, like the games themselves, like first of all, amazing world building. Like it is so atmospheric. It is like, Sean, you were talking a little bit about how Dead Space kind of, it makes you feel really, really alone, and it's got like, you know, sound effects going on in the background that make you feel like, you know, you're really living in this world. Demon Souls does that as well, and again, the sound design is great, and like, but the gameplay is incorporated into that, in that because you know walking forward could very well mean your death, like as quick as that, you know?
Yeah.
It makes you feel so isolated and like vulnerable, like no other game has ever done, like that I've ever played.
Like you're really scared to almost move forward in the game. Kind of.
Yeah, it's it's
that
funny
is a
because
feeling.
like it's not marketed as a horror game per se, but sometimes it sort of is because like there's times where like for example, I remember there's one bit in what was it? The Valley of Defilement, very cheerful place, and there's this like tree trunk arch kind of thing, and you can kind of see like a load of water in front of it. At this point, you'll probably have been playing the game a while, and you just know whenever you see an arch where you can't see to the side, you're like, I know as soon as I go through there, something with a massive club is going to smash me to bits. And I'm like, oh Christ! Like, it's also, I remember. So I want to address the elephant in the room, right? A lot of people would say Dark Souls is like the most impressive game like in that series, and like this should be the game of the decade. The reason I'm bringing Demon Souls into it is because while it does almost all of the thing that Dark Souls does as well, the only thing I think that Dark Souls does better is the cohesive world. Like it does suck a bit that Demon Souls has like basically a hub and you can transport to different worlds, and that's fine, but obviously there's loading screens and it does take you out a little bit. But it's got so many more interesting things going on, like in the background. Like the one thing that I didn't even take into account when I was playing it first is like the tendencies that happen in it. So I don't know if you guys haven't played this game, right?
I just played a bit of it. I'm not sure what I know tendencies are.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So as you might know, the game's a little hard, and so tendencies, like you can have character tendency and world tendency, and that affects how difficult the game is. So you can't like set the difficulty at the start of the game. It does that like in game. So if you want to make the game harder, you can do that really easily. And as everyone has probably seen from like online YouTube videos, everyone always tries to make it harder for themselves, whether it's by playing the game with a guitar from Guitar Hero or with a dance mat or something.
Yeah.
But if you, for example, if you kill lots of NPCs in a world, your character tendency turns dark, and that makes the monsters harder to kill. But it also means the stuff that they drop is better. Like you get better loot out of it. So, you know, you can adjust this game like as much as you like. And it's also got like one of the best new game pluses I think I've ever seen, because, you know, in most new game pluses, it's simply a case of you get to keep all your stuff and then start again, but like with all your perks. In this one, it's like, okay, you're going to play the exact same game again, but it's going to be harder. And they just keep doing that. So it's like, and it is one of those games. Like I remember it's one of the very few games that I've ever, once I finished it, I immediately, like as soon as the credits were over, I just said, okay, new game plus, I'm just going to start again, because it was just that much fun. Like you really, really enjoy slaughtering demons. And like you can see like the effect it has on so many games now, even like Star Wars, the newest one.
Yeah, that's got
Fallen
a big Souls vibe to it, apparently.
Yeah, like it's funny because just before Demon Souls came out, there was definitely like a lot of complaints that there was a lot of hand holding in games, you know, that they just kind of like, you know, drag you along for set piece to set piece, and all you have to do is like press the forward button to keep the flow going, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it's nice that this was a reaction to that, and it just it gave gamers like, you know, the opportunity to feel that sense of euphoria again, like that you used to get. Like I remember, what was I comparing it to? I think it was the Mega Man games. I was thinking when I was playing it, similar to Shovel Knight, that like you know, those games were so incredibly difficult, and I just remember feeling like, yes, I finally beat it. It was a real achievement, and this is one of the few games that actually did that as well as those retro games, but it was still fair. So I could probably ramble on and on and on about this game, but I'm just going to put forward like that Demon Souls, great game, gives gamers great euphoria, fantastic world building, really interesting multiplayer in that it's not intrusive and you can accept it as much as you want.
Yeah, very innovative.
And really interesting mechanics. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I'll leave it there for now. That's why I'm putting that game forward.
Cool. Mic drop. Cool. Thanks, Steve.
Over to Michael.
So I'm going to throw the final game in this little... I'm trying to define these as we go along, these sort of... This one, definitely, Steve picked up on something very interesting, actually, even before I say my game, is horror is something that's shared between those. Because I played a bit of Demon Souls, and I've played some survival horror games that are like Dead Space.
You haven't played Dead Space, no?
I think I played a little bit of the first one.
Right, yeah.
But there is that sense of I do not want to go into this next room because I've already been through so much and it's just going to continue. Please stop. I want to turn off the game.
It's like I want to progress the story, but I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. I can only take so much. Yeah, exactly. Life simulator. Okay, so if we're calling this a genre, it's horror action. Let's just throw that out there for a little while. And my one is definitely going to tie into that. So the game I'm throwing in is a 2015 game, again from Software, Bloodborne.
Well, I didn't know that was 2015 actually.
2015. It's fairly old now actually. It was a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? A pretty it was
innovative?
No, it was new. It was pretty early into PlayStation 4's life cycle. It was. It wasn't quite a launch title. I think it was like the next bunch of games that came out. PlayStation exclusive as well. So again, made by the same people as Steve's Demon Souls. I've dabbled in Dark Souls and Demon Souls, and I've played the shit out of Sekiro recently. It very nearly made this list, but I haven't actually got far enough in the game to justify it. But Bloodborne really stands out for me as one of the best experiences I've ever had in a video game. Similar to what Steve said about what way did you put it? It's like being a born again Christian or something like that.
Yeah,
you do have this epiphany moment. I likened it to losing your virginity actually, because you'll never forget like the first one. That's what it was like for me. So I bought this when it came out, basically 2015, and it kicked my ass. I played a bit of these games before, but not enough to know them. Never really got into it. Was quite not I don't know, I wasn't ready to give a game this sort of commitment. I kept getting absolutely trashed by the first boss, so I left it. And then 2 years later, I came back to the game. For some reason, I got a notion that I wanted to play it, and went back and just pushed through and like broke through that barrier of the first boss, which I think generally in these games, the first or second boss is a good milestone to, okay, you can continue the game. Like you're able for this. Once I got through there, it was like nothing else. It's amazing, and everything Steve was saying as well like ties into this game in different ways. Obviously, like that euphoric feeling you get once you overcome something difficult, and not just like purely because it is difficult. Like games can be like unfairly difficult. That's the thing about this is you never feel like it's unfair, and I think that's a true line in all the Souls games. Like they have excellent combat design, and it always feels like you made an incorrect decision in the moment rather than the game just fucked you, basically. So it, just to briefly say why some things this game does amazing, it's got amazing world building, similar to what Steve was saying with Demon Souls. It's quite unique in that it mixes like Gothic architecture and that sort of Bram Stoker's London horror sort of vibe with this Lovecraftian theme of the incomprehensible horror and like these sort of like vaguely alien sci-fi sort of things. But it's also mixed with the melancholy that's typical of the From Software games. This is something like of a true line between all these series. It's so weird to play like a very intense and very action-based game that also has like a sense of loneliness and a sense of isolation in it. I think that like a big reason for that is that you play a silent protagonist as well. It's not like somebody cracking, jokes every fucking Nolan North there, fucking Uncharted with like
Isaac
Sully.
Clarke from Dead Space.
Does he start? He's Nolan North, isn't he?
No, it's not Nolan North.
Is it not?
No.
Oh, it isn't. Okay.
There are.
I was making a joke. Sorry.
He cracks the odd one. He cracks the odd one, but like he wouldn't go on about it.
He wouldn't. Yeah, he wouldn't write home
one
to
as
his
in
mammy.
the odd bone in someone's like shin or something. He doesn't crack jokes, does he?
There's a few lighthearted.
He doesn't say Arnie lines when he kills a necromancer. He's like, "Ice to see you."
Anyway, we're not talking about Dead Space. We're talking about Bloodborne.
Bloodborne. Again, another thing that I think is shared in Demon's Souls is that the story never intrudes upon the game. There's actually like very interesting lore, and the themes within the game, like the way blood and religion and disease are thematically woven into the game, the enemies, the characters, is very interesting. But you do not need to engage with any of that throughout the game. It's the world design and the enemy characteristics that keep driving you through. You want to see the next boss. Like, even though you know it's going to kick your ass, you want to see what this game is going to throw at you. You want to see what sort of scenario it's going to put you in.
Yeah.
The combat is an evolution from the older Souls games. It was one thing that was a little bit of a barrier for me, is that they're so defense-based a lot of the time. Now, I know a lot of people will say you can play Souls games in a variety of different ways, but there is quite an emphasis on blocking, parrying, rolling, all of those sort of things. And that's great. That's their vibe. But in Bloodborne, the emphasis shifts to attacking. So you gain back a little bit of health if you attack an enemy straight after being damaged yourself. And that incentivizes you to be more aggressive. It still punishes you. Like, it's not just a free-for-all. Like, it still punishes you for being reckless with that. So you have to be, patient at the same time. And that's another trademark of these From games. But it's more hectic, more fast-paced. It's really leaning more into the action side of this, while also keeping all these world-building and immersive elements that like make the series so unique. The level design is unbelievable. It's so weird for me. Before I played any of these Souls games, people always talked about the level design more than I'd ever heard any gamers talk about level design. It's sort of like you only hear about level design in like multiplayer maps when people talk shit about that. Like, oh, it's crap because you keep getting shot in this corridor. But once you play this game, you'll get it. It's sort of hard to sum up, but they loop back on each other in really interesting ways. They're used exceptionally well to tell the story as you're going through. So in Bloodborne, when you're in Yharnam, which is the main city, you're going through and it's got all this gothic stuff, but then it's full of splendor and these really ornate houses and streets. But then you go lower and you go into the slums and into the old Yharnam, and it's dank and it's like full of sewers and shit like that. That's instantly world building and communicating something about this world to you without having to stop and have press X on the screen, etc. Trying to it does not in any way intrude on your gameplay experience as you're going through. So basically, to sum this up, I think this game is unrivaled in terms of atmosphere, action, and creative ambition, and probably one of the best testaments to the artistic potential within the medium, in my opinion, and definitely one of the best games I've ever played.
Cool, nice one. Can I just ask this question for both of you, really? Because I haven't played any of the Souls games or Souls-like games or whatever. But from an outsider looking at them, personally, maybe minus Sekiro, but they all kind of seem very similar in a way. So, like, what would you both say makes your game, your pick in particular, stand out in that genre of, like, between Dark Souls, Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, all that?
I think there's subtle differences between all of them. Like Sekiro is probably the biggest leap, and Bloodborne again before that was a bigger leap again from Dark Souls. But there is, like even Steve was saying, some of the mechanics between Demon's Souls and Dark Souls aren't shared. Like the way bonfires work or the way healing works in particular. And it's surprising how much that can change a game. Like Bloodborne has like, as far as I know, Demon's Souls has, as far as I know, Steve, like a limited resource heal. It's not like the Estus flask where you can just, anytime you rest, they instantly get replenished.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Shit.
In Dark Souls, no, that's what I mean. They're limited in Demon's Souls, aren't they?
In Demon Souls, no. When you rest, like you do get them replenished. So
okay. Well, that's not the
It
case
depends.
in Bloodborne. You have to. It's actually an item that you need. So
Okay.
it's almost like you need to find. So you can run out of heals in Bloodborne
right.
potentially.
Yeah, that's good.
So like for me, it's those subtle differences, and the setting as well is sort of what elevates Bloodborne for me. That sort of gothic thing that they really go to town with and create this like very fucked up, twisted fairy tale like sort of thing. But I don't know what Steve would think about what defines that.
I mean, yeah, like obviously, like when you're looking at it from an outsider point of view, it's very easy to see that when the setting is the same, it's very easy to see that they're all just very, very similar. But when you compare Dark Souls, like sort of Dark Souls 2 to Dark Souls 1, like it's hugely different. Like for me, the reason Demon Souls, sticks out more than any is just that they took so many more risks. Like they did things that when they were making the game, like I was reading up an interview with like the guy who made it. I forget his name now.
Miyazaki, isn't it?
Yes, Miyazaki. And like he was saying that he was given a little bit of creative freedom because Sony didn't really believe in the project. So he was like, I'm just going to make a game that I think is good. And some of the stuff in there, you can see if people saw it on paper, they'd be like, no, it's a terrible idea. One in particular that I'm always going to remember, but like in a way, it's like this makes probably one of the best last bosses I've ever seen in a game. So I don't know if you guys know this, right? It's technically it's not the last boss. The last boss is one of those kind of cinematic bosses who is really easy to kill. So it's like, it doesn't really count.
Yeah.
But the second last boss, who's the true last boss, he has an ability to grab you and take away your experience and levels. So he can knock you back a couple of levels.
That's
like in
mental.
one fight, I played it once, like, and this is the thing, like the further you are in the game, the harder it is to level up. Like you could be fighting for like about 4 or 5 hours before you go up one level. And if you fight this guy and you're not prepared, he could take up to 6 levels away from you in one fight. And you're like, well, fuck, I have to go back now and level up before I'm even close to fighting this guy. And it's like, it's like you were saying, Michael, like, the first boss or the second boss, that's when you're breaking through the wall. But can you imagine I cannot tell you the euphoria of beating that bastard when because it was so hard. There's a lot of little things like that. Another one, sorry, just
go ahead.
Another one, Sean, that I don't know if you know about. So there's one boss. So you know how the multiplayer works in there, and that like sometimes you can kind of see spirits walking around. You can touch their bloodstains and see how they died.
Yeah,
which is I don't know. Is that in Bloodborne, Michael?
Yeah, similar-ish mechanic to that.
Yeah. And you get invading phantoms. They can come in and challenge you to fights and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of like cool multiplayer aspects to it. But one of my favorite ones, one of the bosses is, he's a monk. I think it's the Yellow Monk is his name. If you're in multiplayer mode, the way the boss works is they will take another player who is playing Demon Souls at the same time as you and put them into the body of the monk, so that you're basically fighting like a multiplayer match in single player, if that makes sense.
I remember reading about that. That's cool. Yeah.
Like, that's something that, like the likes of Dark Souls and all that, they've never done anything like that. Dark Souls onwards, in my opinion, even though I love those games to bits, they do kind of, they kind of have like a track record of like, we know this works, so we'll keep doing it. So from what I've heard, I've played Dark Souls 1, 2, a bit of 3, and a bit of Bloodborne. But from what I've seen in it, it's kind of like every single boss is like a big motherfucker or a motherfucker in armor that you have to dodge roll and then stab. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of the ones in Demon Souls, they'll do something a bit more interesting. I mean, obviously that's a great mechanic, but yeah.
The gimmicky sort of, there's a particular... one sort of particular trick to a boss. That's something that did get lost as the series went on, I think. And those can be interesting. They're a little like, once you know it, it's that's it. That's all there is to it. But that is something that it would be cool if they brought back, I think. Yeah. Far in Sekiro, that hasn't been the case, really. There's some mini bosses like that sometimes, but most of the time it's sort of like, you just have to perform really well,
If you don't mind me asking, Sean, so I want to talk a bit about Dead Space 2 actually now.
Yeah, sure.
So,
oh no, question.
Now this is just me personally. I wasn't sold on. I mean, I like Dead Space 2, But whereas Dead Space 1, I'd quote, was one of my favorite games, I thought Dead Space 2 lost its way a bit. You're right when you say it's more.
Sorry, go on.
It's more story focused. So like, they have Isaac with his mask off, and like it's got the whole psychological aspect to it. But personally, I wasn't sold on it. It kind of felt like when Resident Evil went into its like action phase, like Resident Evil 5 and 6.
Yeah,
it's. Obviously, it didn't go that bad. It still has great moments. I still think the bit where you have to get the key out of your eyeball is one of the best bits in gaming history. That's phenomenal.
Crazy. It's messed up. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, to be honest, it's pretty close for me between 1 and 2. I think like I thought 2 just they basically took what worked in 1 and refined it and just made like the gameplay feel a lot smoother. Like 1, I guess this is kind of both a pro and a con for 1. 1 was like a bit clunky, the movement sometimes, but also that kind of added to the survival horror element where you're like, oh geez, I can barely get around here in this heavy spacesuit, but it was still a little bit like, for enjoyability of the game, it was a little bit annoying at times, I thought. Whereas in 2, like they made your character feel a bit lighter and a little bit more nimble. Not crazy, like not like you're jumping around like the necromorphs the whole way, but like you can turn a little bit quicker, and you could reload without aiming and things like that, And I did enjoy, like I thought the story in the first game, whereas they expanded on it a lot more in the second one. Like I did like it in the first one, and I kind of enjoyed that. Okay, we're going to learn more about unitology and what's actually going on and stuff, And I thought, I don't know. I just thought overall, and like I personally, what you were saying about it getting more like Resident Evil 5 and 6, I thought it was. Like I get that it kind of was starting to go in that direction, but it was 3 for me that really fucking threw it off like the ladder then, like that. I don't even know if I completed 3 actually. I just remember playing that and I was like, it just like felt wrong. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't even that it felt wrong to begin with, and then when they introduced microtransactions like a little bit later on in the game, I was like, forget it. I don't even think I completed it then. I was like, I'm not interested.
Is there anything more immersion breaking than a microtransaction? Like you going into a game and like, oh, I need to buy some items or I won't survive this next boss fight, and then beside it you see, oh, you can buy more of these with real money if you want.
Yeah, the thing that was it exactly. You didn't have to pay money, but you had to grind so much to get blueprints to build guns and all this shit. And I was like, I mean, some people like really liked the crafting, because I'm not sure, Steve, was there crafting in the second one?
Yeah, they had a weird...
The craft bit, the bench thing.
Oh, no, they didn't have that in the second one.
Right, yeah. There was, you could get like upgrades at this bench thing, but it wasn't. You didn't make your own weapons. That's what they brought in the third one, and it was just a bit too. It was almost like too deep of a customization mechanic for the game, but also include microtransactions on top of it. It was just but personally, I just think the second one there was more elaborate set pieces than the first one, and they like really delved into the story a bit more. So that's why I picked it really over. But I see your points. So
and the first one didn't come out this decade.
And that too. Yeah.
I think just with that one, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still think Dead Space 2 is a phenomenal game. It's probably just a difference in opinion for us, because I'd say, like, you know me, I love horror games, and Dead Space 1 like just seems like much more hardcore survival horror. Whereas like Dead Space 2, which, and I'm not saying it's not hardcore because it was really, really hard, but like it definitely leaned a bit more into like, it had better action, better shooting mechanics, better action, and like it was more involved in the story. And in my opinion, I feel like the atmosphere wasn't as dense in that one.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I wouldn't say it was an action horror though. Like I wouldn't put it in the same category as 5 and 6, but I'd put it, Resident Evil 5 and 6. But I'd probably put it like somewhere between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5, because I know what you're saying. It definitely leaned more on that side, but it was still like, oh, I haven't got enough ammo and all this stuff, and like, I don't know. But fair point though. Difference of opinion.
It's an interesting thing that you're seeing this creep and influence, not just from the Resident Evil series, but Uncharted and all these other cinematic games that you're expected. Like I'd say EA were pressuring, what was the name? Visceral?
Visceral,
yeah. EA were probably
Visceral
pressuring
games.
Visceral into like, you need to have your big action set piece where the background's blowing around and your man's hanging off by one hand on the ledge, and he says to the girl, "Why don't we hang around here?" or some shit like that.
When I was doing
James Cagney.
When I was doing research on that for this, actually, one thing the game director said, there's one big cinematic kind of cutscene in the game where you're fighting this boss, but it's all cinematic based, so it's not really much
It's
of
like
a challenge.
QTEs.
Yeah, and you get like blown out into space and stuff. And he actually said afterwards that was the one part he regretted putting in the game because it didn't have anything to do with the story really, and it was just for cinematic purposes. But it still looks cool and that, but I guess it didn't have to be there, it didn't need to be there. So, but yeah.
Okay, I think we've bandied these about enough. Why don't we
head to the polls?
Everyone cast their vote, voting Labour or Tories or Dead Space 2.
This is going to be a hard one for me because I haven't played like either of those games.
That's true. Okay, the votes have been counted. We've done counts and recounts. And I'm going to throw it over to Sean, and he's going to tell us which one won.
So the winner is Bloodborne.
Oh, wow.
What?
I wasn't expecting that.
Sickened.
Sorry, man.
I'm kind of sickened.
I genuinely didn't expect that.
Man. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Like I voted for Bloodborne, and the only reason,
I voted for Demon's Souls.
The reason, to be honest, there was a tie between Bloodborne and Demon's Souls because I was like, I haven't played these games, and to be honest, what swung me is just I've seen more of Bloodborne because Michael's been playing it. And it just
so that's kind of kind of a bullshit reason I think there, Sean. I'm just gonna yank my laptop out of the wall.
It's your fault for not living with Sean.
Look, this is gonna happen though because there's gonna be games that we haven't all played and stuff. But I mean, I was gonna ask, was Demon's Souls the first of the Souls games?
Yeah.
Well, it's too late now. I've cast my vote.
Do you want to recast your vote?
Do you know what? No, honestly, I don't mind changing it. I don't mind going back and redoing it because I'm equally grand. Happily making a video on Demon's Souls, to be honest.
So long as one of the Soul/Blood games gets in there. No offense or Sean, but it's like that was my number one.
Dead Space
thing.
was never winning. No, but no, it's fine. But yeah, look, we said it at the start. There's going to be a lot of good games that don't make the cut, unfortunately. Exactly. So we just got to make our peace with it. So shut up, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
No problem. Here, you can make a runners-up video if you want to put all the fucking Dark Souls in it.
I'll make my own website with blackjack and hookers.
In fact, forget about the blackjack. Memes. That's Futurama, man. What a fucking show.
Okay, so we have 3 games. We're over halfway through. Now we're going to launch in to another one, basically. We'll have a little chin wank about it, and then we'll decide which one is going to be our pick. I'm going to throw this one over to Steve, and he's going to give us our first pick.
Okay, so you guys probably know that I am very big into horror. So it's weird that I've actually only got one horror game in my entire list, like out and out horror. And this is it. And the game that I have chosen is Outlast.
Oh, wow. Class.
Cool, yeah.
I didn't know you were into... Sorry.
You didn't know he was into horror?
No, Outlast specifically.
Oh, okay.
No, continue.
I
love that game.
Okay, class. Glad to hear it. So yeah, I was like humming and hawing over this about what horror game I was going to put in here. I had 3 games and I couldn't decide between the 3 of them. The 3 of them were Alien Isolation, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and Outlast. And the reason I settled on Outlast, this is the weirdest reason I've ever settled on a game ever. It's because it's the shortest one. Right?
Yeah, that sometimes can be a virtue. Yeah.
Yeah, like, so my reasoning behind this, right, is like, let's say a game is really long. It's very similar to Amnesia, The Dark Descent, or Alien Isolation. This is my teacher voice now coming out here. So, children, listen to me. So, both of those games, Alien Isolation and Amnesia, The Dark Descent, are class games. They're both really, really scary and, like, you know, freak you out. But let's say if a game is really, really good at scaring you and is as long as, say, Amnesia The Dark Descent, it becomes really stressful. So, like, when I was playing The Dark Descent, I was playing it on Steam, and I'd say I was about 2/3 of the way through when my file got corrupted. And I was like, oh shit. So now it's start again. And I was at that point where it's like, I can't go through all that again. It was like, because it literally is like that level of stress inducing that I couldn't do it again.
Like,
yeah, exactly. But then simultaneously, when you get to something like Alien Isolation, which is, again, really scary, not quite on the same level, but really scary, it kind of gets a bit monotonous. Like, it's not on the same level of intensity as Amnesia or Outlast. It's up there, but not quite in the same level. And I found by the end of that game, I was kind of getting like, I know all the mechanics here now. I know all the tricks you can throw at me. So I'm like, yeah, no, I'm okay. With Outlast, the reason I chose this one is because it didn't outstay its welcome, and it maintained that level of like absolute terror the whole way through. Because Amnesia, I love Amnesia. I love it to bits. It's such a good game. In some ways, like, I sometimes feel it's better than Outlast in some ways, but Outlast is such a complete package. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It keeps you like on your toes the whole time, but it stays accessible the whole time, as long as you're kind of into horror, at least anyway. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's it's never gets to that stage where you're like, I can't hack this game anymore. I need to put it down. I just need to take a step back because it's too much. Like, it's just the right length, in my opinion, for like a horror game.
Yeah.
And it did that thing, like, we had a bit of a horror renaissance like shortly afterwards. I was also considering PT in this list as well, but I don't think that's really fair because it's not necessarily a game. It's kind of somewhere in between.
I would have let you have it completely.
I was kind of thinking it, but like it's really influential. But I mean, you could almost put them in the same. You could almost bundle them together because like PT and Outlast are very similar in many ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Outlast, it just did so much for like the horror genre, like in games, like for the next, you know, the last, God, how many years? When did Outlast come out? Let me just check that there now. That was 2013. No, a bit later. But yeah, like we had so many great games after that. Like, you know, Resident Evil got its groove back, much like Stella. And we got what was the other ones? There were more.
Yeah, there's more than one.
Like,
but that's really true to say is that whole Resident Evil renaissance was directly influenced by games like Amnesia and Outlast. That sort of first-person perspective, first of all, and enemies that you can't just mow through. You're constantly on the defensive or on the run.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, because you can't kill the enemies in it. It's all about evading them, really, isn't it?
Same with Alien to a certain extent as well, yeah.
Yeah, and before Outlast came out, like the big names in horror at that point were Resident Evil, and the last one they did was Resident Evil 6, which wasn't great. Mm-hmm. And before there was also Dead Space, and that was Dead Space 3, which, you know, wasn't great.
And Silent Hill, was dead by that then.
Anyway, that was full on dead at that point. Yeah. Like, you know, it was at that point where it was like horror just wasn't a thing anymore. Mm-hmm. But then Outlast came out, and it kind of opened the doors a little bit for indie horrors as well. Because Outlast, it's not like...
It is an indie.
I'd say it's double A.
Yeah. Yeah.
I call it double A, not triple A, but, you know, it's kind of up around there. And there was a lot of those kind of games came out afterwards. Like, it absolutely opened the floodgates. And for me, fan of horror, that is 100% why I would put this on my list. Because Outlast, in my opinion, just gave psychological horror and survival horror the kick up the arse it needed.
Mm. Well, kicking a genre up the arse, that's a great image to segue into my pick for this. So this, let's say if we're defining this again, it's probably not going to be just survival horror. I'm guessing like sort of immersive first person sort of things like that. Just to put a broad genre-esque thing on it. My pick is Dishonored, which came out in 2012 from Arcane Studios. As far as I know, it's Arcane's first game. They were around for a while before, but anyway. Arcane Studios were made up of ex-developers from loads of different studios, but primarily from Valve and from Iron Storm, which made the Deus Ex games. So lots of guys involved who had worked on Half-Life and Deus Ex games. And you can really feel that within this one. You travel around Dunwall, which is this sort of weird mix of steampunk and 18th century London. Very cool, unique world, and a unique sort of IP as well. It has lots of DNA from other games, but managed to make something of its own. So it's primarily like a stealth action game, let's say, with a first-person perspective. But it throws you into scenarios where there's a real emphasis on player choice. And I'm a huge fan of the Deus Ex franchise. I love the first one. I've played and completed the second one, which was horrible. And I even like the new ones with the gravelly voice, Adam Jensen. I didn't ask for this. That sort of shit. They're a bit cringy, but I love them. They're pretty good. But they didn't make my list because Dishonored is a better Deus Ex game than any Deus Ex game made this decade.
Oh.
It has the similar things, but in a different era, let's say. So Deus Ex has a cyberpunk future, Matrix trench coats, that sort of shit going on. If you transpose all that shit, but put it in this, like, as I was saying, steampunk 18th century London sort of vibe, you get Dishonored. It presents all the options, like those branching paths and multiple ways to approach each level, and it gives you unique abilities, and they really nailed it with the abilities. There were things that actually subsequently got adopted into Deus Ex games. So one of the abilities you get is called Blink, where you look at a platform and you can instantly transport, or what's the word I'm looking for? Not transport to it. Teleport. That's it. You instantly teleport to it. Subsequently, Deus Ex Mankind Divided had that ability, but implemented it in a really stiff and unelegant way. Whereas with Dishonored, it was one of these systems that you could just play around with the level design. And while I said there was options, it was a primarily, like when I played it as a stealth game, because that is a lot of the emphasis. You're meant to be like the sneaky assassin sort of guy, Corvo, and you're in the shadows. But I've seen guys online who use all these different abilities in really like unique ways together to like absolutely destroy enemies throughout the level. Like they're sliding under things and jumping and teleporting, like planting a bomb on a guy and then teleporting over to the other side of the map and then having him blow up a mate of his and then possessing someone else. Like really, I love games that give you all these toys and just say, okay, here's a level full of enemies. You go do what you want to do, basically. It also had a really good voice cast, like surprisingly AAA quality voice cast. I know it's a big game, but it was like the first game in a new IP. So you have people like Susan Sarandon, Lena Headey from Game of Thrones, Michael Madsen from Reservoir Dogs, John Slattery from Mad Men. Really good delivery and character design and everything like that, and like quite a gripping story as well. It ends a little like meh, whatever, but it kept me going and really ties into this alternative history sort of world where you have this like slightly advanced technology but in this older setting. I just loved it. It's like very tightly made. You can see the influence of City 17 from Half-Life in a lot of the environmental design. The abilities are really well implemented, like I said. And it's just, I don't know, it's sort of, I didn't enjoy a lot of the stealth games that came out this decade, let's say. Some of them were great, some of them weren't. But this is one of the few where the stealth felt fun to me. It wasn't just stealth is one of those things that gets tacked onto an action game a lot of the time. Like a stealth section in an Uncharted game, or not to be shitting on Uncharted. Like it was literally one of the games we decided was like among the best of the decade. But it had some negative influences on game design as well. And those sort of like instant fail stealth sections never did it for me. But this really does it. It gives you so many fun ways to get around people, basically, and to be silent. Another influence would be the Thief games, which were on PC years ago. So I really admire it for that. And it's just fucking sick, brah. Okay, so we've got 2 games. I'm going to throw it over to Sean. What are you going to present? Blow our minds.
Cool. I think I'm changing it up again, really.
Forget the genre thing. Yeah. That went out the window a long time ago.
So, the game I'm going to bring to the table is Doom 2016.
Wow. Oh, nice.
Dun, dun, dun. Cool. So, I mean, what can I say about Doom that hasn't already been said, really? Like, everybody knows, like, the legacy of the franchise and so much about the latest one. Well, yeah, I guess there's another one coming out next year, but the latest one that's already out, Doom 2016. So, like, Doom is a game about death, really. You are a demon slayer, the Doom Slayer, and you're killing demons from another dimension. It's a first-person shooter, frantically paced, I guess. It's kind of the thing about Doom 2016, what makes it so iconic for this decade, I think, is it was a breath of fresh air, really, for first-person shooters as a whole, because so like in the 90s you had like arena based kind of gun and run and gun rather, first person shooters where, you know, you weren't reliant on cover. You were always moving, your enemies were chasing you almost. And what happened in, I guess, the early noughties was there was an emergence of military shooters with Call of Duty and Battlefield and all these other games. And that kind of, the market got saturated with military shooters. Like, developers were going for realism as much as possible and really capturing that, like, cinematic military shooter. I know I mentioned Battlefield 3 earlier, but that's still a great game. But, but when Doom came out, it was like, cool. Now, it wasn't like there were other run and gun and arena style shooters that came out all like in the last 20 years. Like Painkiller would be one I would note that was a really good standout one. But there was none really from AAA studios, I guess. Like those were mostly like indie or AA games, and they kind of got overshadowed by all these military shooters.
Oh,
definitely. But like Doom as well was like kind of for id Software, the company behind it, it was a callback to their roots, really, because like it was their first mainline game in the series since Doom 3, which came out in 2004, I believe, and that really flopped for the studio. I mean, it did okay. It kind of still has a cult following, but they tried to go in a much more slower paced action horror story, in-depth story kind of game, and the fans just did not like it. It's like, this isn't what makes Doom. We want, you know, what has worked all along. And so they really came back with that with Doom 2016. And as well, another game that kind of didn't really do well for the studio was Rage 1, which was this was their first like mainline game in a franchise since Rage came out in 2011. They had like Quake Champions in between, which like was great, but that wasn't like a mainline entry or whatever. And Rage kind of flopped for similar reasons, I would say, to Doom 3, kind of. I mean,
Rage had a lot of the ending of Rage is one of the worst video game endings.
I didn't even complete it
really
because I just wasn't into it. You know, but so like the combat in Doom is, you know, it's fast paced, it's grotesque, and it's so satisfying as well. You get just like, when I say arena based shooter, it wasn't the same as the way Quake was, where it's literally an arena, but like each kind of area you come into, you're kind of almost enclosed in that area. You can't really leave until you kill all the enemies. And I mean, the arenas or the areas could like sprawl a good area though, you know, so but it kind of harks back to that arena based shooter style, and the demons will come at you, they'll swarm you, they'll chase you. You have to keep moving, basically. You have to keep jumping and running and all the rest of it. I mean, what more to say about it, really? One thing I will say, it has one of the, in my opinion, best and heaviest soundtracks ever in
amazing.
a video game.
It's fucking amazing.
It suited it so well, and it's mad because like the original games in the 90s technically had like metal soundtracks, but they were like polyphonic or whatever it was. It was MIDI, you know. So like they basically actually like ripped off like Slayer songs and stuff for the first
Doom. It's pretty blatant, some of them,
and
the original Doom did that, didn't it?
Yeah, that's what it means.
Exactly, yeah. And with Doom 2016, interestingly, id originally said, I don't know if it was id or Bethesda, but they came along and said, oh, we don't want any guitar on the soundtrack. And then Mick Gordon, who did the soundtrack, just slipped a bit in anyway. And they were like, oh, actually, yeah, that sounds really cool. Do more of that. And then like
what's this instrument?
Yeah. And in the end, the majority of the soundtrack was guitar based, but yeah, just an amazing game, a breath of fresh air for the genre. It really kind of it brought about a resurgence, I think, in fast-paced run-and-gun shooters as well. Like we had, one honourable mention. Well, it's not really an honourable mention because I don't think it was this decade. I have to check that, but that's Bulletstorm. Bulletstorm was Bulletstorm was way ahead of its time in a way because it was a hark back to run-and-gun games. It was
2011.
Oh, it was 2011. Yeah. Damn.
I do think it's interesting because Bulletstorm seems like it would have done a similar thing to Doom, but it wasn't a huge success at the time for one thing. And it's sort of, I don't know, it had a few more ideas where Doom 2016 seems more like laser focused on this is the gameplay loop. You go fast and you kill enemies. Yeah. Like it's not in a detrimental way, but it's as simple as that. Yeah. You know?
I'll just mention actually Bulletstorm made by People Can Fly, who made Painkiller too. So they obviously know a thing or two about run and gun games.
It's in their veins, yeah.
But yeah, so that's why I'm putting it forward. I think it's a standout of its genre and the decade, and can't wait for Doom Eternal next year. So,
all right, sick.
I just wanted to say I was waiting just for when you were finished. I was going to bring up Bulletstorm as well because like that was actually one of the games on my list that I was considering. It almost made it onto it because that game is absolutely fantastic. So good.
It's amazing.
And I remember. Actually, Michael got that for my birthday one year, and I did not play it for the longest time because I thought, this does not look like my cup of tea at all. And then I played it, and I was like, what the hell? Why haven't I played this earlier?
I do agree. It's sort of like, it's a game, I don't know, until you play it, you're sort of like, why would I fucking... This looks cheesy, and it looks like a lower tier budget game, sort of, in some ways, just because it's like, the way it's presented, like, it's graphically good, but...
Man, I'm getting that again on Switch. Can't wait to play it.
It's so fun.
One thing I'll mention is the version of Doom, the only version of Doom I've played 2016 is on the Switch. And even on that, like there is a dip in graphical fidelity, but the full experience is still there. Like really fast paced, really in your face. And yeah, it's just, it doesn't matter what you play on, it's still amazing.
Does Doom have the... so one thing that I loved about Bulletstorm was... probably I'm going to vote for Bulletstorm after this.
Fuck it, why not?
Will I put in an extra entry in the thing?
Yeah, why not? But the thing that I loved about Bulletstorm when I was playing it was the point system, which was so addictive when I was playing it. Like cool. How you kill certain enemies. Does Doom have something like that?
It doesn't, no. But... a lot of people actually didn't like the point system in Bulletstorm because I think I don't know why.
I think you'd really miss it if it wasn't in the game.
Yeah, I think so as well. Well, you see, one thing like People Can Fly in Bulletstorm, they tried to make it so that you would have elaborate kills and stuff, but in reality, people didn't do that. Like, you might have used like your kick thing a few times and stuff. But I mean, if you wanted to, it's kind of like what I was saying about Hotline Miami. If you wanted to, the method is there to go and
but you can just like points. Headshot guys from around cover if you wanted.
That's the thing, and that's probably one of the reasons it didn't do as well as it did because there wasn't so much of an emphasis on that when you were playing. Like, you didn't have to do it.
Whereas in Doom 2016, there's nowhere to hide. You have to play it that way.
Yeah.
Or else, like, you're fucked. You're not going to survive. Okay, so we've had 3 very diverse games here, all first person. That's the only thing that unites them.
Can I just say one thing like about the games that I was thinking, like one thing that they all seem to have in common is they kind of like reinvigorated a genre that we all used to love. Like,
that is true. Yes, that's very true. Yeah.
You know, like, because, like, you know, Sean, you have, like, you know, the run and gun proper, like, you know, blowing shit up stuff, which, you know, hadn't been around for ages.
Yeah.
I've got, like, Outlast, which was, like, the first proper, like, decent horror, like, in, I'd say, nearly 10 years at that point. And like Michael, you have like the proper like, you know, stealth first person shooter, which probably not since Deus Ex, maybe Thief. That was probably the last really good one. So we've got ones that are like
definitely sort of was absent before that. And I like even coming back to Dishonored, I just felt like, oh, okay, this is the feeling I had when I was playing like Deus Ex and those other games when I was younger.
Did you play the latest Thief?
No, I did. That looked horrible.
Oh, really?
That looked really bad. Yeah.
I played a little bit of it. It was really bad.
Oh, okay.
And it's made by the same, I think it's Ubisoft Montreal or somebody like that. Yeah. Oh no, is it Ubisoft or Eidos Montreal? Eidos.
Is that how you say
Actually,
it?
Michael.
Yeah.
Did you not like the ending of Dishonored? Because that was one of my parts that I really enjoyed about it.
Do you mean the ending? Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but do you mean the ending or the ending level?
Not the ending, the ending level.
Oh, I enjoyed the ending level. I enjoyed the ending level. Yeah. It was a nice challenge.
Like, that did something that I thought was really interesting in that like you could take any abilities that you'd learned and apply them there to complete that level, and I love that. I think that game really lives or dies on the blink ability, though, if you don't mind me saying. Like, if they didn't have that game would be nothing. I know there's other abilities in there, but the blink ability is what makes it.
I tend to agree. It's sort of the verticality of the levels that really was interesting for me. And I've seen that, like, adopted in some other games as well, where you're not just, like, thinking about cover. Because cover was everything for like 10 years in games. You'd walk into an open area and you'd see chest-high walls. And you're like, oh, I know what's happening now. But with this, it was like little nooks and crannies and like rooftops. I love going across rooftops in Dishonored. So, and that's tied directly into the blink ability, really.
Sorry, one last thing. Steve, have you played Outlast 2?
Not yet, no. I haven't played it yet, but I want to. Have you played it?
I have it. I've started it, but it's like way too scary. No joke. I couldn't play the first one on my own. I played it with my sister watching me, so I could like laugh about stuff.
So scary.
So
honest
scary,
to God,
man.
like it's one of the scariest games I've ever played. But like, I love that because like I kept comparing it to Amnesia when I was playing it, because like Amnesia again is so scary, and this is the thing, Amnesia is dripping in atmosphere, absolutely dripping. But like, it's, as much as I love it, it's such a slog. Like I couldn't go back. Like I don't think I'd ever play that again. Whereas Outlast, I think I would, because that's got really like, it's got very encapsulated set pieces that make it easy to come back to. You know, it's got chapters. It's all piece by piece by piece by piece, and that's what made it so good.
That's true.
Like I just and like again, I keep bringing it back to just like how bite-sized and easy it was to get into. Have you seen these new games, the Dark Pictures anthology that the guys behind Until Dawn are doing?
No.
Oh, I am aware. Was it the man from something?
Man of Medan.
Man of Medan. That's it. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, I haven't. So, I just vaguely aware of that one, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of these developers seem to be picking up on this, you know, that there's a lot of games that are just making like really short, compact experience. Like look at Slender, for example, like, you know, the Slender Man, that sort of thing. Like, I mean, that was almost part of my list as well, but like, again, wrong decade, but you know, it's got the same kind of vibe.
Yeah, and that, Slender Man was kind of the launch of that, like, you can't kill your enemy, run away kind of thing.
I don't know where it originated this decade, because there was definitely a resurgence with Slender, Amnesia, Outlast. All those seem to be, like, I always think of those as one group of things.
But there's actually a good gap between them.
Yeah. And then, because, like, they only came on my radar then, and then PT happened, which was directly influenced by them. Yeah. And then by the time you get to Resident Evil, it's in the mainstream, basically. Yeah. So now, like, if you're making a horror game nowadays and you don't have an enemy you can't kill, what are you doing? Like, even RE2 has the guy with the hat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
there were a few Capcom games that were doing that sort of thing a while ago. Like have you heard of the Clock Tower games?
Yeah.
And there was another one that was really good. I really enjoyed it, but no one played it. It was called Haunting Ground. It was where you had a dog, you were a young girl, because of course you were. It was Capcom. So
that's so
that was really good too.
Can I just give an honourable mention to The Evil Within for this decade?
No, you fucking can't, because that game was fucking awful.
I loved that game. I didn't play the second one. I didn't play the second one. I only played the first one. Well,
Sean, you have
let's
to tell
get
me why
into
he's
it.
good.
no, well, just because this is probably all going to get edited out, but just because for me, it was probably the best survival horror I played since Resident Evil 4.
Okay, I'm going to chalk pretty much all of this up to our difference in opinions of like horror games. Now, don't get me wrong. I will say one thing: like The Evil Within got the gunplay down. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere was fucking horrendous. It was so bad.
I wouldn't say it was that bad, man.
It was like
Good defense.
Did you? Okay.
there was no consistency in the entire game. Like everything was kind of like, oh, okay, you think you're making progress? Hey, we're going to take you out of this place that you were, and you're going to throw you into an old abandoned church. Why? Who gives a fuck? By the way, here's a spider mannequin creature. Fuck it. It was awful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like it was fucked up. Like, and it's like, what is going on? But then, like, it all culminates in the end where you're playing inside somebody's head. Like that's why it's so fucked. Like, and I think that's what I liked about it, was that it was kind of, I thought the story was very unique in that way.
If you put the last boss of that game into Resident Evil 6, would you be able to tell the difference?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
no, you wouldn't.
I would never compare it to Resident Evil 6.
I did.
He went there.
No, I'm
That's
sorry.
the end of
like,
that chapter.
Game
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I will give it to you that like the gunplay was great because you really had to do the whole conserving ammo thing and all that, and like that was really, really good. I just thought like nothing in it was scary. Not a single thing. It was so dull.
The save rooms.
What?
Do you know, like when you went back to the asylum and you saved the game and you could like upgrade your abilities and stuff? Do you know the way like they fucked with you there, kind of, because like some things would change every time you went back and you weren't sure, like you knew you couldn't get like, well, you thought you couldn't get like harmed there, but they used to fuck with you psychologically. Did you not think that was cool?
Silent Hill 4 did that way better.
Whoa.
Isn't that like one of the worst Silent Hill games?
There's a video series you should check out about this, Sean. Okay.
On the cardboard box item. Check it out.
Okay,
no,
cool.
honestly, I mean, difference of opinion.
It's fine.
Not for me.
It's fine.
I think it's safe to say we've thoroughly debated these three games and several others for some reason. So let's cast our votes and see which one we choose. Okay, so let's see which one won. Over to you, Sean.
No worries. And the winner is Doom.
Shock horror.
So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Doom. I'm happy with that.
No, they're all sick games in fairness.
And
they are.
None of them were really comparable, unfortunately. In that one, I think like they were all very different.
Yeah, Steve did make a good point.
It's the Pope who's making this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's not like this is the Pope's list. This isn't definitive, but like we have like 15 rock solid games here, regardless. Definitely. So it's fine.
Okay, so we have 4 games. We're getting down to it now, guys. We're getting into it. We're near the end. One last slot on the top 5. We're going to be ranking these afterwards, by the way, because we love lists and things need to be in order, and I don't have OCD. But
that's the whole point of the podcast.
It's an intervention for me. Stop making lists, Michael. Okay, this is the last one, and I'm going to start it off by throwing this game into the ring. Seen it on lots of lists this year. It's The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
What?
Shit.
What? Fuck!
What's a Zelda? Okay.
Sure, Sean.
Sorry.
Actually, it's funny you say that. This was my first ever Zelda game. So the first ever, and the only Zelda game I've ever played.
Same, actually.
It's weird because I've watched lots of playthroughs of Zeldas, and I've watched Steve play like a shitload of Majora's Mask and Wind Waker and shit like that. And a lot of them, like, I do like the look of, and I saw the appeal, but I never was compelled to play them. And like, I didn't have like a GameCube or a 64 or anything system, like that, so I couldn't play them. But I didn't feel like I was missing out too much until I saw Breath of the Wild. from the moment they announced it and you saw the gameplay footage, I just like, you could tell this was special. It almost feels like a best of for game design this decade, because it takes really cool elements from lots of different games. So you have a huge open world like Skyrim, where I know this is sort of a meme at this point, but like you can literally go to the mountains in the distance and get up on them. You can mount them. It has a combat system, while not directly related, but definitely influenced by the Souls series. Steve was saying like Demon Souls was hugely influential in lots of games, and this is one of those games. It ramps up the challenge a lot more than any of the other Zelda games, as far as I can see, in one-on-one combat, and really punishes, in a very Souls-like game, punishes people who don't respect their enemies and take it in a patient way to a certain extent. It has a similar depth of side quests, like something like The Witcher 3, which seemed to be like a hallmark for open world games in this decade. And also, it was influenced a bit by Shadow of the Colossus. That wasn't this decade, but the remake came out this decade, so I'm sort of including that. It has the same sort of scale in some of its boss enemies and similar approach to climbing up on them and invading them and taking them down that way. And also that sort of true line that we've talked about in Souls games, and also in this one, of a little bit of melancholy in there, a little more, maybe pitching back a bit more to Majora's Mask-esque. That was more dread, but like you got a little bit of that in this game as well. The thing that blew my mind most about this, though, is and it's something I didn't really know about this game until I got into it, was it uses loads of different mechanics in an interesting way. Almost like Dishonored, as in it gives you all these abilities and just says, go ahead, here's a playground, use them how you will. Like, you see so many videos of speedrunners like completely manipulating this game in really unique ways, and not in like very glitchy ways, in ways that are like sort of intended by the designers. But they might like, there's ability where you can stasis an item, so freeze it, and then hit it loads of times so it builds up momentum and get on top of it to like shoot yourself across the map. Guys using that in conjunction with like other abilities and gliding to, you know, get around the map really fast. I love when games give you these tools and don't constrict you in any way, and that seems to be a theme running through this game, is freedom. Freedom to explore, freedom to use your abilities, freedom to approach the game whatever way you want. Famously, you can fight the final boss within 20 minutes of starting the game. You just have to complete like a short tutorial on the plateau at the beginning, and then you can go straight at Ganon if you want. But that's amazing to give you that option. You would be missing out on like an amazing game if you just did.
And it would be impossible.
It would be very difficult. But I'm sure plenty of speedrunners do it.
Yeah.
That ties in also to this sense. I'm playing Death Stranding at the moment. Sorry I keep bringing this up, but hey guys, I'm playing Death Stranding at the moment. I love the game, but exploring is so difficult. And that's sort of the point of the game in a way, but the opposite is true in Zelda. It's difficult as a game, but exploring is a joy. Like, you can glide, you can climb, you can surf on your shield, you can get a horse, and seeing new areas is the reward within itself. Like, obviously you want to upgrade your gear and progress the story, but just seeing what new sort of town, what distinct enemy type they're going to throw at you was the driving force in the game. And that's so unique. It's like one of the best versions of an open world I've ever seen. And it's got that like typical Nintendo charm and sparkle throughout the whole thing. Like, it's a Zelda game, and like, while I haven't played the games before, I understand that is something important. That means something in a game. And also, I have to give kudos to Nintendo for, this is one of the best reboots of a franchise I've ever seen. Like, they took some risks. Like, it's not fucking, you know, like Steve was saying, the game's going to get like triple times the hardness, like fucking Demon Souls, like throw everything at the wall. But, you know, it does away, like Zelda games were so formulaic, and a lot of people for years thought that's what a Zelda is. If you do anything else, it's sacrilege. Like they slightly changed the art style for Wind Waker, and there was nearly riots on the streets.
Huge backlash, yeah.
But with this, it's so different. Like the typical Zelda dungeons are gone. There used to be a set way you'd get items and progress through the game itself, and that's gone as well. A lot of like famous characters and personalities that you would think you would encounter within a game, that's gone as well. Completely reinventing it for like modern times. This is something that Metal Gear Solid tried to do this decade as well. I love Metal Gear Solid 5, but it did not like nail it in the same way Breath of the Wild did. So that's I'm in love with Zelda now. I never thought I'd say that.
Is she your weeaboo?
No, I'm more of a Link guy, if I'm being honest. I like Link in this now.
Nice.
He's cute. That's weird.
There's a female Link in Hyrule Warriors, Linkle. So there's some fan art you can look up.
It's such a horrible sounding name. Can I say that? Linkle. Ugh.
Yeah, doesn't it though? It sounds awful, yeah.
Just reminds
truly
me
terrible.
of Ankle for some reason.
I'm going to name my daughter
I thought you were going to say
Ankle.
that weird...
Ankle, yeah.
What's that weird Femme Bowser thing that's going around?
Bowsette.
I can't remember. Bowsette, yeah. That's a thing.
Okay, so anyway, Breath of the Wild, throwing that in the ring. Love the game. Amazing. Next up, we've Sean.
How do I follow that? So my
With a game.
So my game is actually kind of inspired by Legend of Zelda. It is also the first game from this studio, came out in 2016, and we've already mentioned it on the podcast, and that is Hyperlight Drifter.
Oh, wow. Sick.
Oh, wow.
So another indie game, probably like up there with my top 5 favorite indie games ever. It was probably after Hotline Miami, I'd say. It was like the first indie game I really got excited about on the lead up to it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this looks gorgeous. It's a mix of 8-bit and 16-bit art styles. And I was like, this is incredible what you can do with like pixel art. It's a top-down indie action platformer kind of a game. It's one thing like, so I don't really like, personally, I don't usually like dungeon crawlers and stuff. Because I think they can get a bit, like the map can get a bit complex and things like that.
Yeah.
And the, it's all about collecting loot and things and, some of the RPG elements. I wouldn't be huge on that. But what I liked about Hyperlight Drifter so much was they kind of simplify things, not simplify things, but they didn't hit you with everything all at once. So basically you have a main town in the game, and then you have kind of 4, you can go north, south, east or west out of the town, and you come into a huge, not a huge, but like a good sized map and of like dungeons, and they all loop around on themselves. So in that way, you never like miss anything really. I mean, there are secrets in the game, but you'd never miss any of the main things. You'd never really get too lost either. You can keep going in one direction and you'll loop back. So it's like each of those 4 areas from the main town has a hub as well, and then you'll like start down a path and that will eventually loop around, and there might be like 2 or 3 of those paths in that hub. But so essentially the game is about, well, the story of the game is kind of, there's no dialogue at all in the story, and there are dialogue boxes but in a made up language. So
that's helpful.
Yeah, the cutscenes are gorgeous in it. They're like all pixel art as well, but they show you through visual, I guess, what has happened, and you're basically in this world that has been destroyed by these giants, and you are kind of on a quest to like save the people and rebuild the world. The world is inhabited by these enemies, and that is the main kind of, besides just exploring the world to collect pieces for like the final boss, you're also fighting these enemies, and the combat is really satisfying. I'd say it's like same level as Hotline Miami satisfying. And I know I'm going to probably compare those games a lot, but it's a hack and slash combat system, which has actually been kind of compared to like Dark Souls in a way, because even though it's hack and slash, you're very you have to be very aware of your like enemies' attacks, because like one hit can like knock off a third of your health probably.
It's quite a difficult game, yeah.
Yeah, and because it was also made in Game Maker Studio actually, and it's at 30 frames a second, and there's no iframes, so you have to be like really. It takes a while to like master the combat, I suppose, and all the enemies have very different attacks, and you can get swarmed again with enemies of all different attack variations.
So, sorry, just for anyone who doesn't know, iframes is invincibility frames. So like normally when you do an attack or dodge, you have a few frames where you're invincible, and that's sort of like you can sort of cheese around enemies. But like if a game doesn't have that, then it's fucking brutal. Like, you have to be on it.
Less than milliseconds really to decide or to make the right move. But one cool element of the combat is your main weapons are a sword, and you have a little kind of blaster gun as well. But your blaster gun technically has infinite ammo, but you run out of ammo, and the only way to, so you don't have infinite ammo, but the only way to, you don't pick up ammo as you go around. You need to, every time you hit an enemy with your sword, you recharge your ammo. So the game forces you to get up close and personal with the enemies, which is a really cool mechanic. And you'll find through the combat, it's just like the best way is to make a combination of your sword and your gun to take out most enemies. Like I said, beautiful art style, gorgeous soundtrack by Disaster Piece, who has gone on to make a lot more game soundtracks and film soundtracks actually as well. I think it's definitely a standout in the market that at that point when it came out in 2016 was starting to get flooded with indie games. And I just remember seeing it, and I was like, wow, this is kind of not something different, but it was definitely, well, it does have its like standouts in that regard, but it definitely just seemed unique in its art style, I guess.
Yeah.
And like I kind of said, I was kind of weary about going into it because I didn't know too much about it going in, and then I was like, oh, is this going to be like loads of loot kind of thing? But no, it doesn't. It doesn't throw everyone at you at once because it breaks the world up in those 4 hub areas. You can go to like one area, do everything there, and then you're like, cool, I've got that down. Now I'll move on to the next one, you know? And you can do those areas in any order you want, and then that unlocks the final boss then once you've completed those 4 areas. You can also, in the main town, you can like upgrade your weapons, unlock, like your new unlocks will show up in the shop and things like that, and upgrade abilities and stuff. But there's not too many of them either. It's not like you have huge ability trees and stuff. It's just like maybe 3 levels of an ability that you can unlock, you know, and as you like progress through the game, you can unlock more levels. So for me, it's just one of those standout indie games that I really loved. As soon as I picked it up, I didn't put it down until I completed it, and I'm actually going to play it again on Switch because I got it for that.
Sick.
So yeah, that's my last game that I'm throwing into the pile.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, we'll throw it over to Steve for the last potential game of the decade.
Okay, any theme that we might have had for this particular game has gone out the window now because mine doesn't link up with either of yours. So this will be fun to try and figure this out.
It was gone years ago.
I tried at least. I'm only messing.
No, I'm the same, man. I don't, because I have no idea how it's going to link up. But anyway,
it's all right.
So my game for this decade, and this is a game that I really, really love, far more than I expected to when I started playing it. My last game for this decade is The Walking Dead Season 1.
Oh, wow. That's a good one, actually.
Yeah.
So I want to bring this back a little bit to like the previous decade for reasons that I'll compare soon. Like I remember like when I played video games very much as kind of like, you know, form of escapism, yada, yada, yada. And a big part of that, so the games that I loved more than anything were the Final Fantasy series. And the reason I loved them was because they had really good characters, like characters that, no joke, no hyperbole, that I cared about. You know, like I'd come away with it and I'd be thinking like, Jesus, that sounds like something your man Cloud would do, or Zidane would do, or Vivi would do, you know, that kind of way. Like genuinely emoted and empathized with these characters. And I'm bringing that up because very few games do that. Like even really good games, like rock solid games, like even the ones that I brought up already, I don't think any of them like really did that before. There was no characters that I really felt like a connection to. But oh my God, like Walking Dead season 1, Lee Everett and Clementine, that has to be one of the most beautiful relationships ever put to any form of media I have ever seen. I'm presuming you guys have played it before?
Yeah.
I have not, but I've like heard and seen like loads about it, and I know the impact it has. Like,
do you know the ending?
No, but I've watched the TV show, if that counts.
And they're not, it's separate.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to talk about the ending, Steve?
Work away, I don't mind though.
I no, I can do it without spoiling it, I can. So the ending is like just so incredibly impactful. It's so the whole premise of The Walking Dead, it's one of the, not the first by any means, but it is one of like the early adopters of your choices matter. Like what you do affects what happens down the line. And it does. I think what I really admired about The Walking Dead season 1 more than any other game I played is that like the choices you make, they're not simple choices by any means. Like, you take any other game, it's a choice of like, hey, do you want to go to the armory first or do you want to go to the spell shop first? And oh, okay. Whereas, like, The Walking Dead was more like, hey, do you want to murder this small child so we have food for our group, or do you want to starve to death? It's those kind of choices which are, like, impossible to make. They're really, really difficult choices. And I know this is going to sound a little bit pretentious and a little bit my own ass when I say this, but, like, it kind of teaches you a little bit about life. Like, it's... No, honestly.
Don't kill people.
No, well, yeah, I mean, hey, I didn't know that before I played this game.
You need someone to tell you, in fairness, yeah.
Exactly. But, like, you are presented with choices that are really difficult to make. I was reading up, like, a review with the developer, and he was saying, like, every choice is equally wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, yeah, that kind of sums up the entire game, because, like, every choice you make is deliberately difficult. I remember when they were making the game, they said they designed it so the main gameplay mechanic was, instead of like, shooting at things or jumping over things, it was making impossible choices. And that really rings true, in my opinion. Like, I remember, God, there was one in particular that I felt that was just impossible. There was a point where you're in a camp at one point, and one of the camp members like is talking to you and says like, oh, herself who's running the camp, she's not dividing up the food like in a fair way, and they ask you to bring up the matter. So you go over to the one in charge and say, hey, people aren't happy here with the way you're dividing up food. Says, okay, fine, you do it. And she gives you all the food that's in the camp at the moment, and you're put in charge with whoever gets the most food. And like, it's not done in such a way, you can't give it to people equally. You have to give some people more food. And you're like, oh my God, who am I supposed to give this to? On the one hand, you have kids here who really, really need food. On another hand, you have someone who's like kind of sick. So like, if you don't give her food, like, that's going to mess her up. Then you have the character who's really aggressive whenever you're not extremely nice to him. So you're like, what do you do there? And Sean, sorry, I know you haven't played it, so I'm still not going to spoil it. The ending gives you a choice, and I'm sure anyone who's played this knows the choice that I'm talking about. And it is just one of the most heartbreaking choices. Like, it's like, I can't describe how heartbreaking this choice was. But when I played it, no hyperbole, like I pretty much broke down. It's that difficult a choice to make. It's Sophie's choice kind of a choice.
Yeah.
It's Steve's choice.
I think it's like famously the game that launched 1,000 crying YouTubers, like there were so many people like just on this one particular moment. And like that's maybe got lost over the years, but that was really difficult. And like
it was.
I don't know about you, Steve, but I never had a game make me feel like that before.
That's why I put this in here, because like there's a lot of games that I can feel, kind of emotional. There's a little twinge, but this engaged me. This made me really feel like, wow, man, like this is a well crafted, well thought out, well written story, and I'm like really touched by like the way things have gone. Interesting side note, actually, and still not ruining anything. So, Michael, you know the choice that takes place at the end.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you don't make that choice in time, depending on how you treated Clementine, she will make that choice for you.
Oh, wow. So
cool.
your decisions really do matter throughout the game.
Yeah, this is the thing, like, and like, because, so you're with Clementine the entire way through the game, and almost every choice you make, she either witnesses or is a part of. So the fact that like every choice you make, like she is a part of it, the fact that the final choice, which is such a difficult choice, like if you can make the choice yourself, but if you can't make the choice, your behavior up until that point will influence how the game ends. And like, for me personally, I've never been so invested in a game, in a story. And like, the great thing is, like, this continues on. I've only played the second season. I haven't played third or fourth, but I want to. And I've seen that the final one, it kind of puts Clementine in the same position as Lee Everett, who you play as in the first one. And I'm really looking forward to playing that. But, you know, season one kind of started it off. It kind of kicked off those difficult choices. The Wolf Within, by the same company, Telltale Games, they did a similar thing.
It was Wolf Among Us, I think.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. What was The Wolf Within? I don't know what that is.
Evil Within.
Doesn't matter.
You know, that classic game.
There you go. That it's always on my mind because I love it so much.
Sorry, go on, Steve. Yeah.
No, I'm done now.
Okay, that's it. No, just.
I mean, did you have a question or?
No. I was just a little side note on. It's just sad that Telltale Games actually had a really bad shutdown recently. Like they were declared bankrupt, and it was very abruptly. Most of the staff were abruptly fired. I think it's coming back in some capacity. I don't know 100%, but the games are available to buy again, and there's another company trying to finish the series. But
what?
It's a shame because like one of the games of the decade, like they did make something very special, but it sort of got run into the ground since then.
What actually happened with them?
Well, they weren't making money. Like you could pretty much see that every game they were making was just they license a franchise and just make the same game.
Yeah,
pretty much. Like there were differences, and like certain Tales from the Borderland was very funny, very well made. But
because I thought people loved those games though.
Yeah, they do, but like it costs a lot of money to get those licenses, they were just the sales were dwindling a lot. I think Walking Dead season 1 and 2 were the high points in terms of sales, maybe Game of Thrones as well, but it just started like they were, and the critical score and all was like just hitting the like ground basically.
Right, yeah.
Okay, well, sorry Steve, did you have anything else to add on The Walking Dead?
It'll all just be gushing if I'm being honest, but like, in a nutshell, like season 1 of The Walking Dead, again, did not expect it at all. And that is kind of what makes it more special, because like, it's one thing to go into a game when you're like, oh, it's, you know, like going into a Pixar movie. It's like, okay, I'm probably going to cry at the end of this. But like, I wasn't expecting this. And I came out of it like really, really caring about these characters. And it's amazing that like, you know, video games as a medium, in this case, managed to make me really feel something in my cold, black and stone heart. And that's a really nice feeling, you know? It makes you feel alive. So that is why I'm going to put The Walking Dead Season 1 in there, because I felt something genuinely out of it.
Well, what a great note to end that on. Okay, so let's talk about games.
Let's banter.
Baby. So we had 3 very different games again, if we're being honest. Breath of the Wild, Hyperlight Drifter, The Walking Dead. Just to go back to Hyperlight Drifter for a second, I think you're right in saying, I think you might have alluded to this, that indie games in this particular genre and with like a sort of similar art style were reaching a limit at this
saturation,
a point of saturation. That's what I meant. Yeah. It is very much like a go-to style. Again, sort of given a boost by Hotline Miami a few years ago, and that sort of definitely popularized it a lot more. But Hyperlight Drifter does seem to do something different. I think its cutscenes are very cinematically directed. It's not like, you know, a lot of these retro pixelated games will just like have a box with character dialogue.
Yeah.
But if they're trying to just tell the story visually, that's very ambitious and impressive thing to do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say to follow that with, but I agree.
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know that Disaster Piece actually did the soundtrack for that, and that makes me extremely excited to play. I actually have it downloaded here, and I'm looking forward to playing to it. But
definitely play it.
Disaster Piece, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I think that was his like. Maybe not his. Is it Disaster Piece one person? Or
I think it's one guy. Yeah. Did he not do Fez?
He did, yeah.
Oh,
he did Fez as well.
But I think
he's gone through to It Follows now and some other.
Yeah, true.
movies.
He hadn't done a load of other games before Hyperlight Drifter, but then definitely play it, Steve. Though it's really one of those games that just draws you in straight away, you know. It's nice that it's like going back to what you said about Outlast. It's kind of like. You can do it. It's like bite-sized. You know, you can take it a bit at a time. Like it's a fairly lengthy game. I think it's like took me like well over 20 hours, I'd say anyway. But you can take it like bite-sized. You know, which is nice. And each, well, not to go on about too much, but like each of those hubs has like a different theme and they introduce different enemies and stuff like that as well, which is really cool. So you're in for like a different experience each time you go to one of those hub worlds.
I think the way you're describing the level design and the combat is, again, we're seeing the Souls influence permeate into different genres.
Definitely.
Not like you would never call it a clone, but like you can tell they looked at this game and thought, okay, we can take a little bit of that and recolor it and put our own spin on it, sort of thing.
And one thing, Steve, for you especially, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild is the only Zelda game I've played. But a lot of people compare Hyperlight Drifter to like the older Zelda games and say like in a market that is swamped with them, it was like the best, like kind of clone, or not really, I wouldn't say clone, but like inspiration, or a game inspired by it.
Yeah.
So I'd say you'd really be into it for those reasons.
It's funny because like it was one of those games that I was kind of on the fence with. It was like I wasn't sure if I'd like it or not. But then once I kind of decided, do you know what? It was on sale one day, and that's literally the only reason I bought it. And then the more and more I looked into it, it just looks like such a class game. So now I'm really, really looking forward to it. Just to talk about Breath of the Wild for a second there now. Do you know, it's funny, you were saying that you haven't played any of them, Michael.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild really, really benefits coming after Skyward Sword, because you were saying that, remember you were saying that like they were really formulaic, like Skyward Sword was the most formulaic of any of the Zelda games, and even though I haven't played it, I'm sure I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
Like it looks like it's going to be fantastic. Like it looks phenomenal, like the things you can do in it. Like I saw a thing where like someone discovered that you can what was it, like you can find a way to make a hot air balloon, but this was not part of the original coding, like, or maybe it was.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was saying. They just give you a load of toys to play with, basically, and that's not something I just expected, like a sort of hack and slash open world game when I went into it, which I would have been very fine with, but it does sort of give you a bit more to play with, really, and you know it varies up the combat and the exploration a bit as well, which is cool.
Can I ask you something actually on that? Because now I've seen like a few videos on it. I don't want to look at too many because I don't want to ruin it for me. Yeah. But the one, if I can play devil's advocate for a sec, the devil's advocado for a second there now. It looks fairly barren is the only complaint I could ever say about the game. Like, it doesn't look like there's much in it. Like, is that not something that I think that's a thing?
I wouldn't completely disagree with you. It does tie in because it's meant to be this. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler because it's pretty much revealed at the beginning, but it's like quasi post-apocalyptic. It's it's like they're constantly referencing a disaster that happened 1,000 years ago, basically. But yeah, it definitely stretches the capabilities of the Switch, I'd say.
Yeah,
so
100%.
There couldn't be a lot more going on within the platform. So that I would agree that is in some ways a flaw.
I wouldn't even say that. Like the thing about Zelda on the Switch though is it was like perfectly optimized for the system. So like it's one of the best like performance wise runs, like it's one of the best running games on the
Very
system,
few dips, yeah.
And I mean they're bringing out a sequel now next year, and that's going to have to obviously up the ante a bit. So yeah,
that's true. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't be disappointed if they did, like if it wasn't like
same.
full of things like a Witcher. Witcher's full of like detail and things like that. But I don't know. It does tie into the sort of the more subdued atmosphere in some ways, the sort of melancholic thing I was talking about. But again, maybe there's not quite as many things to do. Like if you're reaching those like 100-hour things where like in a game like Skyrim, The Witcher, these other huge open world games, it's still full of content.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe Breath of the Wild, it doesn't quite have the longevity that those have.
Yeah, I would agree with that probably. Yeah.
Did you get the motorbike in Legends
No,
of
I didn't get the motorbike.
That's only I think
DLC.
one of the DLCs.
Yeah.
But it looks cool though.
Definitely looking forward to playing anyway.
And we had The Walking Dead as well, which it's been years since I played it actually, but that Telltale style, you've talked a lot about the decisions you make in the story, but the gameplay was pretty enjoyable. Like it's for anyone who doesn't know, it's almost like a very light adventure game. Like you're sort of you're picking up items and you're using them, and it's mostly based around the decisions. But sometimes you have to go like find the crank handle to lower the drawbridge, sort of thing. You know, not.
I mean, like it was basic. That's the thing. I mean, I would never like celebrate the gameplay of like The Walking Dead. It just kind of did its job. It very much was about like the emotion behind it and how well it did that. Like, which in my opinion, it did like phenomenally well.
It did indeed. The gameplay does help you connect with characters though. If you're like actively doing things, I do remember there's one particular moment where you have to make a choice. Someone's in a precarious situation with like a bear trap or something like that, and that's sort of a gameplay section, and that really does like,
oh my god,
put you in Lee's shoes in that moment. So they knew what they were doing with
Sean. I really wish you'd played this game now so we could talk about what we're talking about here.
Sorry,
honest to God. But man, that bit, like that was grotesque and horrible and wonderful at the same time. Like it's one of those decisions that is just like there is no good outcome to this whatsoever. Like, you know, on the one hand, like it's kind of forcing you to do a terrible thing to prevent another much worse thing, but it's so bad that you have to do that thing. And actually, if you remember, there's a bit towards the very end of the game where you have to do something similar to the main character. Do you remember that?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. We're probably going to have this on screen. Sean, play these games before we put this video out. Like, seriously.
It's short enough, actually, so yeah, you could blast through it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many difficult decisions to make, and like it was emotionally challenging, which very few video games manages to be. Like loads of them are, you know, mentally challenging. Tons of them are like that, but emotionally challenging. That's a difficult thing to do, and this one did it.
And while we're saying it's emotional, just one final thing, like while we're saying it's emotional, it's not sappy, is what it's saying. Like it's pretty complex.
Yeah, it never is.
There's grey areas there. Like like Steve was saying, every decision is the wrong decision. Like there's no here's an obvious it's not like Mass Effect where it's like be the good guy or be the bad guy. It's the world's fucked. What are you going to do about it? Sort of thing.
Like this isn't really a spoiler at all now, Sean, but like the big, I mean, I'm sure you know that like the main characters are Lee Everett, who you play as, and Clementine, the little girl who you kind of act as a father figure for.
Yeah.
And kind of a big theme that runs through it is that like you're trying to teach Clementine how to survive in this apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
And that kind of means like you're kind of forced to take away her innocence in a way. Like you kind of have to show her like, listen, this is a balls to the wall, batshit insane, tough world, and you can't be like a little girl, a little princess here. You have to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And
you're constantly making decisions here where on the one hand you really want to like coddle her and say, don't worry, it'll be okay. Whereas on the other hand you're like, no, I'm going to be like hard as nails here because in the long run that'll be better for you.
Character.
And like it never tells you like when this is going to influence future decisions. So you're like, I could be a really nice guy here, but you never know when this decision is going to impact on whether or not she dies later in this game. You know, really difficult.
That's cool. I mean, I was just gonna say, like, on the emotional thing, like the only way I could relate to that is Spec Ops. Just because like that game, I know it's a bit of a tangent, but like what I loved about that game is that it made the decisions for you kind of, and then blamed you for it afterwards and made you feel shit for doing it. So it was all scripted, like, but it still made like that was the one game that I actually had to put down the controller. Went outside, smoked a cigarette, and I was just like, "What is a game anymore?" Do you know what I mean?
Looking up at the sky.
Like it really was like one of those holy shit moments in gaming for me. Fortunately, it was on my short list, but yeah. So like when you're just talking about the emotional impact that The Walking Dead has, that's kind of what I would reference in that regard. So I kind of know what you're talking about, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Have we all played Spec Ops: The Line?
We have, I think. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So just out of curiosity, was it the white phosphorus bit then that you're talking about?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I figured as much.
It's fucked,
Jesus.
Yeah,
it really was.
What a downer.
To some, and like on that note.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked these ones through. We're going to take our vote for the final place in our top 5 games of the year, and then
it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, this one's a difficult one as well. Have to say I've played a good amount of all these games so far, which is
yeah, we've done
unusual.
well.
Okay, cast your votes. Okay, so the votes are in. They've been tallied. They've been tillied and tallied, and Sean's going to drop a knowledge bomb on us now.
So the final game, the final winner of the top 5 games of the decade is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
I'm not that surprised.
Okay, fucking hell.
If I can just quickly go through the runners up in each category.
Okay, so
okay.
Yeah, and we might as well just like let everyone know what's made the list.
So I'll work backwards. Yeah. So in that last round, we had The Walking Dead was the runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
The round before that...
so what was the winner? So Breath of the Wild was the winner, and the runner-up was Walking
Dead. In the fourth round, the winner was Doom, and the runner-up was Outlast. In the third round, the winner was Bloodborne, and the runner-up was Demon Souls. In the second round, the winner was Hotline Miami, and the runner-up was Shovel Knight. And the first round was a tie. So
a lot of silver medals for Steve there.
Yeah.
So I am like silver medal Jesus here now. So yeah, can we get like a graphic of that up on the screen? Would that be cool?
Yeah.
As long as it has Radmobile somewhere.
Can I just have that picture of you in the Radmobile, and I'll just put like a silver medal around you, Sonia O'Sullivan in the corner. Oh, I have to do that now because it's recorded.
Yeah, I'd hate to be that editor.
You're locked in.
Yeah, Jerry Adams. Anyway.
What?
Oh man.
Okay.
Fucking hell.
So
this podcast is like how my parents see me. Silver medals all across the line.
Okay, so we have our 5 games. So the next thing to ask is, what numerical order will these games be ranked in?
Or alphabetical order.
Jesus, we've a lot of B's. We've a lot of B's going on, I'm noticing. So they'll all be bunched there. Okay, so does anyone have a game they think is the clear number 1 best game of the decade? What would be everyone's vote?
I'm kind of torn between 2, but if you put a gun to my head, I would probably pick Bloodborne as the number 1 there.
Yeah, that'd be the same for me. For me, it's between Bloodborne and Breath of the Wild, if I'm being honest.
Same.
I would probably be between Breath of the Wild and Doom, maybe. So like I'm trying to think on a grander scale, like out of the 5 games, like what would be on top. So yeah, I say Breath of the Wild probably.
Okay, so where are we landing with that? For me, it's Bloodborne, I have to say.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah. And Steve, you were sort of torn between the 2. You're the tiebreaker here.
I definitely lean towards Bloodborne. Bloodborne would be my number 1.
Okay, cool. So we got Bloodborne number 1. And then I'm guessing
Breath of the Wild is our clear number 2.
Breath of the Wild number 2. Then I was leaning towards Doom, if I'm being honest, because I think there's sort of, if we're getting below these 2 games, there's sort of flaws creeping into the games, like very minor stuff. But Doom is sort of the most complete package. Like, it did a lot of stuff really well. So that'll be my number 3. Has anyone?
I might put Hotline 3.
Yeah,
I'm torn on that one. Like, I haven't played Doom, so
yeah. To be honest, I'd literally, to rank the rest of the games, I'd probably go Hotline, Doom, then Battlefield.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 and 4 would
that'd probably be my ranking.
Okay. Well, wow, that was a lot quicker than I thought. We have
it. Like once we got the first 2 out of the way, it all fell into place.
Okay, so. In order then, our number 1 is Bloodborne, number 2, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, number 3, Hotline Miami, number 4, Doom, number 5, Battlefield 3. Okay, that's a pretty good list.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's so much violence. Where's Cooking Mama?
Overcooked 2.
Has there been, there's been Cooking Mama games this decade. It's only been this decade, right?
I
Has there?
played any of those.
I don't know. Let's ask Google. Cooking Mama.
Alexa.
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Cooking Mama was only last decade. Maybe there might have been one, but
2006 was the first one. So yeah, you might have been right. Holy shit! They need to bring that back. That needs an open world reboot. Fuck Zelda.
Yeah. Open world Cooking Mama. That would be fucking... Actually, that's basically Final Fantasy 15 when you get right down to it.
That's true, yeah. But what if you went around hunting animals and shit like that, and then you had to cook them, and then... Well, you can cook in Zelda as well. Okay,
yeah.
Fuck. It does everything, literally, that game. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so... We've got our 5 games of the decade. We've had a few laughs, a few tears, and Sean had that racist tirade that he went into halfway through, which was
that got edited out.
We will edit that out. Don't worry, guys. It lasted for a few hours. And I think we've got a good list here. It covers a lot of ground. There's some great games that didn't make it, but you're always going to have that with a games of the decade. And I think it reflects a lot of trends and a lot of changes that happened in video games throughout the decade. So I'm really excited to make 5 videos on all this.
I can't wait to edit this podcast. But yeah, no, I think there was a great variety in games. Everybody that brought, or every game, that everyone brought meant had a personal thing. Sean.
It's fine, that's cool.
You know what I'm saying?
You're hungry, I know.
Everybody had a very personal connection to the games they brought, and it was inevitable that not all. I know I'm bombing here hard. I'm not a rapper. And, it was inevitable that some games weren't going to make the list, unfortunately. But we're not going to have any hard feelings on it. Yeah. And we're going to try our...
Yeah, Steve's not going to cry, basically.
We're going to try our best. Steve, I'm sorry The Evil Within didn't make it, man. But, there's always next year,
I'm sorry The Evil Within didn't make it. I'm talking on an industry level.
It did get a sequel, Steve, actually. Well, how well did it sell?
I don't think
there's not going to be another one, really, is there?
Well, who knows, man? Who knows?
Okay, cool. On that note, guys, Steve, thanks so much for joining me. It's been great.
It's been good.
It's been mediocre.
Sorry. No, it's been great.
Okay.
It's been great, Steve.
It's been fine.
Thanks so much for dialing in all the way from Japan. What time is it there, actually?
Samurai o'clock. No, it's 12:15 at night here now.
Jesus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you teaching in the morning?
Party time.
No, sure, it's Sunday.
No, Sunday.
Yeah.
The Lord is teaching tomorrow.
Who's the Lord over there?
Let's not get into that. This isn't what this is about. Okay.
Choose your favorite. Okay, yeah.
Thanks. Let's rank the gods. How about that? That's our next podcast. Yeah. Okay. So, guys, what are you playing at the moment? Steve, what are you playing?
So I'm jumping between two very retro titles at the moment. I just got the Castlevania collection, so I'm playing
sick.
a lot of that.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's hardcore. It's really tough. But then to blow off steam, I'm murdering people in Hotline Miami 2, which is pretty class.
Well,
Going for a lot of oldies, but like it's in my backlog.
Nice one.
at least you're not killing people in real life anymore.
Well, yeah.
What's in that castle? Is it like the first few Castlevania games, or is it Symphony of the Night, or?
No, Symphony of the Night, they released a separate one for that. They have like the first 4 major ones, and there's like a few Game Boy ones, and that's it. But like some of them are kind of terrible, but some of them are like really good. It's a really imbalanced one. Okay. How about you? What are you playing at the moment?
What are you playing, Sean?
Well, strangely enough, I'm also playing Hotline Miami 2 because I just got the collection for Nintendo Switch and I like blasted through the first game in 2 days. So just started the second game there the other night and it's just so good. Like when they first came out, I played them like straight away. Actually, it was you, Michael, that got me into the first one.
Yeah, I remember having it on PS3. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was like so much hype then for the second one. I got it the day it came out and just like non-stop played it until I completed it. It's just so good. But we won't go on about it.
Yeah. Thanks for asking, guys, but I'm playing Death Stranding. I'm the only one stuck in 2019.
Yeah.
Death Stranding is a game about bringing loads of parcels around a beautiful environment. So
cool.
Amazon the game.
Yeah.
Amazon the game. A bleak look at our future. Yeah. Thanks a million for listening, anyone who stuck around. We really enjoyed this. There might be more of these happening. We'll see how we get on. And enjoy your supper.
Keep an eye on the stars.
Cool. Good luck.